the crowds don't remember my name, when my hands don't play the strings the same way, I know you will still love me the same. 'Cause honey, your soul could never grow old, it's evergreen. And baby, your smile's forever in my mind and memory. I'm thinking about how people fall in love in mysterious ways, and maybe it's all part of a plan. Well, I'll just keep on making the same mistakes, hoping that you'll understand. But baby, now take me into your loving arms, kiss me under the light of 1,000 stars, place your head on my beating heart. I'm thinking out loud that maybe we found love right where we are. So baby, now take me into your loving arms, kiss me under the light of 1,000 stars. Oh darling, place your head on my beating heart. I'm thinking out loud that maybe we found love right where we are. Well, maybe we found love right where we are, and we found love right where we are. Today I don't feel like doing anything. I just wanna lay in my bed. Don't feel like picking up my phone, so leave a message at the tone. 'Cause today I swear I'm not doing anything. I'm gonna kick my feet up, then stare at the fan, turn the TV on, throw my hand in my pants. Nobody's gonna tell me I can't. Nah, I'll be lounging on the couch, just chilling in my Snuggie. Click to MTV so they can teach me how to Dougie. 'Cause in my castle, I'm the freaking man. Oh yes, I said it, I said it, I said it 'cause I can. Today I don't feel like doing anything. I just wanna lay in my bed. Don't feel like picking up my phone, so leave a message at the tone. 'Cause today I swear I'm not doing anything, nothing at all. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo, nothing at all. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo. Tomorrow I'll wake up, do some P90X, meet a really nice girl, have some really nice sex, and she's gonna scream out, "This is great."
Oh my God, this is great.
Yeah, I might mess around and get my college degree. I bet my old man will be so proud of me. But sorry, Pops, you'll just have to wait. Oh, yes, I said it, I said it, I said it 'cause I can. Today I don't feel like doing on, 'cause today I swear I'm not doing anything, nothing at all. Woo-hoo, 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 nothing at all. Woo-hoo, 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 nothing at all. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch and it's bringing me out the dark. Finally, I can see you crystal clear. Go ahead and sell me out and I'll lay your ship bare. See, I'll leave with every piece of you. Don't underestimate the things that I will do. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch and it's bringing me out the dark. The scars of your love remind me of us. They keep me thinking that we almost had it all. The scars of your love, they leave me breathless. I can't help feeling we could have had it all. Floating in the deep, you have my heart inside of your hand, and you played it to the beat. Baby, I have no story to be told, but I've heard one on you and I'm gonna make your head burn. Think of me in the depths of your despair. Make a home down there as mine sure won't be shared. The scars of your love remind me of us. They keep me thinking that we almost had it all. The scars of your love, they leave me breathless. I can't help feeling we could have had it all. Floating in the deep, you have my heart inside of your hand, and you played it to the beat. Could have had it all. Floating in the deep, you have my heart inside of your hand, but you played it with a beating. Throw your soul through every open door. Count your blessings to find what you look for. Turn my sorrow into treasure gold. You pay me back in kind and reap just what you sow. We could have had it all. We could have had it all. It all. We could have had it all. In the deep, you have my heart inside of your hand, and you played it to the beat. Could have had it all. In the deep, you have my heart inside of your hand, but you played it, you played it, you played it, you played it to the beat.
We are going to start the event in 5 minutes. We are going to start the event in 5 minutes.
melts like lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, and the dream that you dare to, oh why can't I? Oh, someday wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like a lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. The dream that you dare to, why, oh why can't I? Ooh,
wait for the other participants to join the loop.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this year's Compass, a sub-event of Check Marks the Spot, probably brought to you by the UP Chemical Engineering Society, Incorporated. My name is Doreen.
And my name is Ken Patrick, and we'll be your host for today. We've prepared a series of talks from carefully chosen speakers to introduce you all to the realm of science, technology, engineering, and math.
Or STEM for short. As the next chapter of your high school life approaches, I'm sure you're all aware that it's almost time for you to choose the track to go to. And hopefully, we could be of help in making that decision.
By listening to the experiences, advices, and insights of our speakers, we're hoping to give you a better idea of what the STEM track is all about and help you discern whether it's the right path for you.
But before we get into all that, let's hear the opening remarks from the president of UPChem, Ms. Sabrina Blanco.
Thank you, Doreen and Ken. A pleasant afternoon to everyone and a warm welcome to Compass 2020. In its previous installments, Compass is typically formatted as a roving caravan where the team visits different high schools to hold live seminars. However, given the community quarantine protocols in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, here we are today in a virtual setting instead. Despite the new challenges in transitioning to this arrangement, the team was adamant in seeing this year's Compass through and delivering its promise of informing students about the opportunities in STEM related professions. Amidst all the changes around us, the fact remains that we as a nation need to invest in scientific education and development in order to engineer solutions to the challenges we face today. When faced with problems like a pandemic, we Filipinos often try to cope by looking for light amidst the darkness, hope amidst despair, resilience amidst disaster. That's why we celebrate developments and victories like miracles and acts of heroism. We latch onto these narratives and let them drive us forward despite the uncertainties along the way. But what lies behind this hope isn't some sort of vague optimism or a mystical force out of nowhere. Instead, there are real scientific principles at work behind every recovery and every new piece of technology that's being developed to mitigate the situation. Likewise, there are real people, flesh and blood, not fictional superheroes, leading the fight against the pandemic. Real, tangible hope lives in these people, and they can be found anywhere from the front line to the research labs to the virtual classrooms and workspaces. And as early as now, hope of the same kind already lives in you and me, like a small flame burning brighter when we give it the opportunity to do so by recognizing our potential and investing in it. As we listen to our distinguished speakers today and hear from their experiences and insights from their respective fields, maybe that hope will spark up and light the way towards a potential career path. Maybe that hope will eventually grow and transform to light the way for the nation as we venture forth exploring new horizons. So once again, welcome to Compass and thank you very much.
Thank you for your wonderful remarks, Miss Blanco.
Now it's time to get into the talks from our speakers. Later on, we will open the floor for questions, and you may privately message your questions to the Zoom host. Our first speaker is here to give you a look into the exciting world of STEM, specifically chemistry and biochemistry, the opportunities it offers, the specific areas of expertise, and the field's contribution to the society.
Mr. Mark Steven Santiago is a registered chemist and a graduate of the University of the Philippines, Diliman, where he earned his undergraduate and master's degree in chemistry. He is currently an instructor in the Institute of Chemistry in the same university. He is also involved in various organizations which aims to promote science literacy for all students.
Please give a warm welcome for Mr. Mark Steven Santiago.
Hi guys, hello. Can you hear me? May rinig ba ako?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, Doreen and Kent, for that wonderful introduction. And good afternoon to all our listeners and to our participants for today's event. So thank you for coming to Compass. So let me just share my screen. All right. Okay. So for this segment, I'm gonna be focusing on my experience now as a chemist. So ano ba yung mga natutunan ko at ano ba yung mga ginawa ko within the last 5 years of my career. All right. All right. So what do I as a chemist do? Siguro yung iba, no, lalo na kapag mga high school pa tayo, no, kapag sinabi mong chemist, ano ba yung unang papasok sa isip mo? Ito yung mga magaling gumawa ng drugs o kaya magaling gumawa ng bomba, no? Lalo na kapag, uy, chemist ka, gagawa ka ba ng bomba, gagawa ka ba ng drugs, yayaman ka ba sa drugs? So, hindi ko alam kung bad thing or good thing yon. Hindi ko alam kung added power ba yon sa akin, kung marunong akong gumawa ng drugs or bombs. But technically, chemists, hindi lang naman yun yung ginagawa nila. So, ngayon, I just wanted to clear this misconception, no, that chemists really do a lot of things at ang dami-dami nilang pwedeng gawin. So, ano ba yung mga responsibilities ng chemists? So, involved kami sa methods and preparation. So, usually yung mga trabaho namin, process-oriented. Kapag important sa amin yung mga materials, raw materials and products, we usually do quality check. Some of the chemists also are involved in research and development. Sila yung usually na nag-check at gumagawa ng process kung ano yung mas optimal na process para ma-produce mo yung isang bagay. And then some of the chemists are also involved in instrumentation. So mga inventors din naman yung mga chemists. They tend to create new things that are really beneficial for the humanity and for the society. So yeah, so I'll be able to give you a little bit brief background of these scopes and responsibilities later on. Siguro by just sharing ko ano na yung mga na-experience ko within my career. Sadly, according to the data of the Federation of Chemistry Societies, meron lang tayong 11,000. So we only have an estimated 11,000 chemists in the Philippines. This estimated lang to based sa number ng mga pumasa sa board exam. And hindi mo alam yung iba dito nag-abroad, yung iba hindi naman talaga nag-pursue ng career as a chemist. So sobrang liit pa. And if we compare this to the overall population in the Philippines, this is just about 0.0002%. So imagine ganun ka-konti lang yung mga chemists sa Pilipinas. It's like you're very lucky if your barangay has at least one chemist. So ganun ko siya nai-imagine. And I'm quite sad to hear this news, no, na bakit ganito lang ka-konti? Bakit ganito lang kababa yung number? Is it because mahirap talaga yung chemistry kaya walang kumukuha, or is it because students are not really fond of science? Or maybe because they're not just really aware on the beauty and on the wonder of chemistry. So probably marami talagang factors ito na, but probably this is one that we can target just to make informed decisions out of experiences and out of talks from experts para malaman din niyo kung ano talaga yung ginagawa ng iba't ibang scientists. Alright, so ano yung mga benefits ng pagiging chemist na na-experience or natutunan ko? Una, I really know that the job for chemists is really secure. Well, probably kasi konti lang talaga yung mga chemists sa Pilipinas. And in all aspects, no, sa industry, sa medicine, sa academe, sobrang kailangan ng chemists sa lahat ng bagay. So, sobrang in demand ng mga chemists ngayon. Tapos konti lang din yung mga chemists sa Pilipinas. So, sobrang nagkakaubusan sila. So, hindi sila ganun ka-indispensable compared sa other fields na medyo madami yung nagtitake. And then it offers career flexibility. Ako, as of the moment, I do not really practice being a chemist, like being a scientist. No, I actually do a lot of works on science education rather than research. So merong ino-offer na career flexibility yung pagiging chemist. Pwede ka nga mag-sales din pwede ka mag-business on your own, which I will try to explain to you later on. Yung pinakagusto ko sa pagiging chemist, siguro yung last row, exposure and travel. Marami tayong napupuntahan na lugar, marami ako na-attendan na conferences, marami ako na-meet na tao na nag-extend yung network ko. I-share ko din sa inyo later on yung mga nagawa ko as a chemist and as a chemical science educator. And it's a mentally rewarding work. I think this is true for all science and engineering careers, especially if your research really focuses on something that could benefit, na nagbe-benefit yung buong society. You're trying to solve a big problem, tapos yung research mo has had that implication, has had that effect on so many people's lives. Sobrang rewarding no, kahit pagod na pagod ka na sa research mo, kahit pagod na pagod ka na sa lab. Kung at the end of the day, at the end of the lahat ng pagod, you'll be able to help other people. So that's really rewarding at some point. Alright. So, kung gusto mo maging chemist, ano yung mga education options na pwede mong i-take or pwede mong gawin? Pwede kang kumuha ng Bachelor of Science degree in Chemistry. Minsan minamodify siya ng ibang institutions. Kunwari, I think LaSalle, minamodify siya minsan para maging fit for business persons. So, pwedeng Bachelor of Science in Chemistry, minor in Business Administration or Business Development. Kasi nga, chemistry can also be used for businesses. UP Manila, for instance, meron silang medyo specialized na chemistry, which is Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry. So, ito medyo leaning siya towards medicine, or molecular biology. Kasi meron silang subjects on biology, molecular biology, aside from their chemistry or regular chemistry classes. Yeah. UST also has this BS in biochemistry. Kung more on leaning kayo more on medicine, mas makakatulong talaga sa inyo yung biochemistry. After that, pwede kang mag-pursue ng further studies like Masters of Science in Chemistry. Pwede mo din siyang i-extend into chemical engineering. Ilang years na lang yun, I think 1.5 or 2 years, you'll be able to get your degree in chemical engineering as well. So you're a scientist and an engineer at the same time. And then you can also pursue Doctor of Philosophy in Chemistry and Doctor of Medicine. So magandang pre-med. Sabi nila magandang pre-med daw yung chem, based sa mga nakakausap kong dati kong estudyante. Masaya sila na nag-take sila ng chem as a pre-med before they actually go into medicine kasi may mga advantages silang nakuha. Pwede mo din siyang gawin for kung gusto mo maging abogado, if you want to take Doctor of Law. It's also a good one. Di ba kung nanonood kayo ng mga series, di ba, mga forensic science, magandang background ito if you wanna go also in law. And you have postdoctoral opportunities after. No? Ito usually yung ginagawa ng mga gusto magstay sa academe or gusto magstay sa mga research institutions. Ayun. Marami ding fields yung chem, no? So para lang din siyang isang malaking subject, tapos as you go through your course, pwede kang mag-specialize. Siguro kapag mga nasa science high schools, yung mga participants natin, nakaka-relate sila kasi marami na agad silang chemistry classes, no? Mga specialized chemistry classes. So you have organic chemistry, inorganic, physical, biochem, quantum, analytical. We also have allied and derivative fields. Medyo specialized lang sila for a specific, let's say, niche or genre. Kungari, if gusto mo talaga more on how the body works, paano nangyayari yung mga reactions sa loob ng body natin and how does it relate to a lot of things like metabolism, homeostasis, then you get to take biochemistry or you get to major in biochemistry. Kapag gusto mo naman ng mga materials, ano ba yung mga physical properties, bulk properties ng materials, then I suggest you specialize in physical chemistry. Kapag gusto mong pag-aralan yung mga force fields, how the atoms interact with one another to be able to form, let's say, an actual substance or an actual molecule, then go to quantum chemistry, regular titrations, then you go to analytical chemistry. Kapag gusto mo naman ng yung mga mad scientist lab, organic chemistry yung i-major mo or i-specialize mo. Minsan may mga mas masyado pang specialized na field. For example, ako, I really major my research in biochemistry. So I study how proteins are actually produced or how I can copy or clone a gene. But specifically, I do that on marine organisms. So my research basically falls under marine biochemistry. So yung mga research ko is specialized to marine organisms and marine environment. So pwedeng ganun ka-specific or ka-specialized. As you go through the ladder, mas okay na mas mag-specialize tayo na para mas maganda yung ating output na gusto nating i-achieve. Tapos meron ding different types of chemists na nakita ko, no? Ginawa ko lang din naman to based sa mga nakita ko sa aking mga batchmates at sa mga recent students. So most of them are research chemists. So ito yung mga nasa research and development, mga nasa research institutions. So they usually wanted to figure out something to be able to solve a major, let's say, problem or a major issue in the society. Let's say in the environment, in the process itself, especially kapag nasa industry ka, tapos nasa research and development ka, ano ba yung pwede kong gawin para ma-optimize yung process doon sa particular research? I'll give you examples later, no? Yung iba naman sa amin, they are actually laboratory chemists or laboratory heads. So pag laboratory chemists ka, you are the head of the production. So for example, yung lab mo, they are producing a certain material or a certain product. So, ikaw yung nagli-lead ng production as it requires chemical reactions. So, ikaw yung mag-lead ng production. Paano mo ma-ensure that the production will proceed or will go on? Kasi it's also a business, no? So, kapag pag may nagkamali sa production, of course, it will be a loss for the investors. Also, you need to check for the quality assurance every now and then, since especially if batch production ito, you need to check for the quality every 1 hour, every 2 hours, especially for food chem, no? Parang kuwari tubig, kailangan nilang i-check yung quality niya over a certain period of production. And then, meron ding mga chemical science educators. So, ako personally, I actually think I belong to chemical science educators. I'm more on actually promoting science education or science communication in the country. I'm a lecturer. I'm also a consultant and content developer in many e-learning organizations. And I'll try to share my experience later, no, kung ano ba yung mga ginagawa ko. So, in my 5 years sa career of being a chemist or being a licensed or registered chemist, I actually experienced working in a research laboratory, both in the industry and in the academe. I was na-experience ko ding maging lecturer itself sa academe and outside academe. So let me just share to you my experiences. Just let's see, no, baka may mapulot kayong insights doon or makatulong siya sa inyo when you're choosing your career. So working in a research laboratory, it's more on laboratory testing and field testing. So minsan nasa lab ka, minsan nasa field ka, depende sa nature ng work mo. Minsan nasa production ka, minsan nasa research and development ka. So magkaiba din yon. Pag nasa production ka, you're more concerned on the process to produce the output or the material ng iyong company. Pero pag nasa research and development ka, you're focused more on how to improve the process. All right? So parang how to improve the process and how to like improve the raw materials, how to improve the final products. Are there any instances that you can play with to be able to boost, let's say, the business or boost whatever you wanted to increase in terms of the capacity of the material? So usually in a research laboratory in the industry, you're product-based. So medyo madalang yung mga nagtatayo ng research lab sa industry na hindi sila kumikita via a product. And it calls for the needs of the consumers. So kung ano man yung kailangan, let's say, na a particular consumer type, yun yung kanilang dinedevelop. And yun yung playing ground ng mga research laboratory chemists na nasa industry. So for example, ito yung mga malalaking research laboratory na nasa Philippines. You have San Miguel, Ace the Brewery, kapag gusto mo ng alak, ng beverages, right? So I suggest kung pipili ka ng career mo, doon ka sa pinaka-gusto mo. No? Kung gusto mo ng alak, edi go with San Miguel or Asia Brewery. Pag gusto mo ng pagkain, food, go to Universal Robina. Diba yan yung mga chips, mga feeds, Gardenia. Pag mahilig ka sa makeup, let's say, or sa cosmetics, kapag medyo interested ka on how the materials are being produced, so paano siya nag-work out, you can actually go to, let's say, Splash. Ayun, so sobrang daming malalaking company dito sa Philippines, no, in terms of a research lab. I experienced working with San Miguel when I was an intern way back when I was an undergraduate. It's a laboratory, so ibig sabihin kulong ako sa lab for like 8 hours, 8 or 9 hours. So nandun lang ako sa loob ng lab, papasok ako na hindi nasisikatan ng araw. Lalabas ako nang lumubog na yung araw. So ganun yung trabaho ng being a chemist. If you wanted to be confined, then may mga ganong settings, may mga ganong scenario, no, na parang ayaw mo umitim, ayaw mong maglakad, aircon sa lab, so ganun lang. Ang ginagawa doon usually is we test the raw materials. So this involves yung mga grains, yung mga ginagamit para makagawa ng mismong alak. Tapos, tinitest din yung packaging, yung mga bottles, yung glasses, gaano ka bigat na pressure bago sila ma-break. So, mga ganong types of instances, you need to think, it's a research and development lab, so you need to think kung paano ko may improve yung process. What if I wanted, let's say, na parang maramihan yung pagka-transport ko, may effect ba yon in terms of the material na kailangan kong gamitin? So, I think the most fun experience na encounter ko or experience ko when I was working in San Miguel, meron silang taste test. So, di ba maraming products yung San Miguel? So, marami silang products ng alcoholic beverages. And then, supposedly, the employees there are trained to distinguish the tastes. As a chemist, it's an advantage for you if you know how to make or how to work with your senses, like taste, smell, sometimes touch if you want to feel the temperature. Ayun. So, they have blind tests of different alcoholic beverages, and you need to identify whether it's like pale pilsen, whether it's like ano ba mga products ng San Miguel, carbonated, like the carbonated alcoholic beverage na meron sila, ganon. Sometimes they add competition products no, para malaman nila yung difference ng taste. So that's fun. Siyempre hindi ako pinatry kasi I think, I don't know if I am of legal age by that time, but hindi ako pinatry. Nakita ko lang sa kanila na ganito yung ginagawa nila. Tapos pinatingin nila sa akin on how it really works. And it's really cool. It's really fun. So if you're into that, probably you want to work in a research laboratory, something that interests you. So just think of something that interests you and try to connect it with your passion, or try to connect it with your with what you really like to do. Right. Sometimes sa mga meron ding mga research laboratories sa academies at sa mga malalaking school institutions like UP, Ateneo, they have PPAC, UPLB, they have Erie. Governments also have a lot of research laboratories. Pero sa government, more on the processes na in terms of involved in the country, like for example, DENR, so yung mga projects nila, usually they need a chemist or a biologist or a biochemist. Depende sa project nila. Meron mga specific na bureaus din, like Mines and Geosciences Bureau, minsan kailangan nila ng geochemist to analyze rock contents. Department of Agriculture need a lot of agricultural chemists, right, to be able to check the quality of crops, test the pesticides, whether it's really good or bad for a particular species of plant. So maraming mga openings for agricultural chemists sa Department of Agriculture. Sometimes they partner up with a lot of institutions to support research in their field. So usually these government institutions calls for the needs of the society. So hindi lang siya consumer-based. Kung ano ba talaga yung kailangan natin to boost economy, to achieve sustainability in the long run for the Philippines. Ayan. So a lot of my friends are working in equipment and technology kasi sabi nila malaki daw yung pera dito kasi this is about sales. No? So syempre, as a chemist, gumagamit ka ng instruments. Tapos, merong mga mas matatalinong chemist na sila yung nagbebenta ng instruments for you. So they design and invent what you need. So nandito pumapasok yung mga inventors, no? So baka kasi isipin ng mga estudyante, if you're a chemist, you're just basically a scientist, you do not invent. May mga chemists that actually specializes in technology, in invention, no? Sila yung mga gumagawa talaga ng apparatuses or equipments na kailangan mo for a particular study. At the same time, they're the ones maintaining that particular equipment or apparatus. So Shimadzu is one. So kapag sales agent ka nila, pupunta ka sa different laboratories, iaalok mo kung ano yung product sila, tatanungin mo kung ano yung need ng particular lab na yon. And then you basically sales talk with them kung ano ba talaga yung kailangan nila at paano ka makakabenta sa kanila. So more on travel at the same time kasi for example, kasi diba usually yung mga laboratories, hindi sila nasa Metro Manila usually nasa provinces nila para mas malaki yung space. Mga industrial complexes, usually nasa provinces like Laguna and Bulacan, so mga ganon. So pupunta ka doon. So it's also a sort of travel for you. Ayan, I think a lot of students are very curious kapag sinabi mo bang chemists, pwede ka ba sa crime lab? So yung mga nanonood ng ano ba mga palabas sa Netflix ngayon na madaming crime lab, Lucifer, yung mga ganyan, How to Get Away with Murder. So nangangailangan sila ng mga forensic chemists or experts doon. You can work in a crime lab actually after graduating BS in chemistry. So I have a friend that's already in the crime lab ngayon. At the same time, police din siya or PNP personnel din siya. It's a lateral entry from on the PNP. So galing ka sa labas, tapos pinasok ka nila. You have a position in the PNP at the same time. You are there on-site forensic chemists. So may mga forensic chemists na nasa lab lang. So pinapadala lang sa kanila yung mga materials on the crime scene. Pero yung mga iba, syempre sila yung mga active na forensic chemist na pupunta talaga sa crime scene, titake ng pictures, titake ng sample, tapos i-analyze nila on the spot if they have the right instrument, no, or equipment, kung ayun, kung ano yung mga evidences na pwede nilang makuha on that particular site. So, yung PNP, you can also do it in PIDEA. So for me, medyo risky lang to sa buhay natin, no? Baka kasi malaking kaso to, tapos, ayun, medyo may pag-aalangan to in terms of risk. But definitely, it's a fun and adventurous experience for everyone or for anyone who wanted to be a forensic chemist. You just need the right attitude, the right mindset, the the right background to be able to become a forensic chemist. Merong BS Forensic Science tied up in PNP if you wanna really pursue BS Forensic Science in I think in Baguio. Nandun din yung kanilang program in the University of Cordillera. So you can actually check that out if you wanted to be a forensic scientist or a forensic chemist. All right. And then I think this is the last set of type of work that I actually wanted to talk about. Working in the academia, the education sector. So basically, we're trying to communicate science. As a lecturer or as an instructor at the institute, I've been doing this with a lot of my students. I'm trying to hook them up. Siguro yung mga non-science majors, lagi ko silang sinasabihan na especially yung mga taong ayaw sa science, right? So just give it a chance, especially kapag introductory general chemistry yung tinuturo ko. Just give it a chance. So let's say you'll be able to use it sooner or later. And that's my one goal in life. No, I wanted to really communicate science so badly, in especially in younger students or younger learners. Kasi ang laki ng barrier, ang laki ng gap natin, no? Ang daming may ayaw ng science, ang daming may ayaw ng math. But basically, it's something that you could develop through time if you give it a chance. I work also at Quipper, so I'm a content academic officer. So I oversee the content of modules. So if you're familiar with Quipper, it's an e-learning management that provides modules to grades 4 to grades 12 students. So I just oversee the physical sciences aspect to ensure accuracy in content in chemistry and physics. And we also develop modules that would actually help students to learn and to be more active in learning science. And I also volunteer in Pueblo Science. We actually go to different places in all over the country and even outside the country to train communities na medyo hirap sa science. We want to promote indigenization of science. So basically, gusto namin na parang localize yung science natin. Within a particular community, sometimes sinuturuan namin silang mag soap making or perfume making para meron din silang business nila after the training. This technically I can literally say no that science takes me to a lot of places. No, yung mga extension projects and volunteering projects ko na to, it really napunta na ako sa maraming places because of this, to be able to help a lot of communities to actually regionalized science. I think I'm also with Dr. Fontanilla in Tawi-Tawi. That's the farthest I've reached on the South to be able to help people there to promote science and mathematics learning. So yeah, it's really fun, and science literally takes me to places. Volunteering for me is a great honor and fulfillment. If you have time, please follow us on Facebook and on TikTok. So we already have the TikTok account. So we want as much as possible to explore any type of social media to be able to promote science. So medyo marami na rin kaming followers sa TikTok. So please follow us. All right. So there, I think one last piece of advice, no, kung kukuha man kayo ng career, whether it's science related or not science related, I always put this quote when I was invited in career orientations. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. So if hindi mo gusto yung ginagawa mo, keep looking. Don't settle for it. All right? Okay. So if you have questions, let me know. Thank you.
Ayan, follow niyo raw sila sir sa Facebook and TikTok. And wow, that talk was very insightful. I sure learned a lot of stuff about the field of chemistry that I didn't know before. Also, fun fact, Mr. Mark Steven Santiago was mine and Doreen's first chemistry professor in UP.
Oo nga, I remember the two of you guys. You're great in class.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sure our audience is still bursting with curiosity, so our floor is now open for questions from the audience.
Ayan, so we have our first question. I'm interested in taking chemistry for college. Are there any subjects or skills po na need kong aralin now?
Ayun, so for that question, basic chemistry subjects are sufficient para makapasok ka no, sa chem. You'll be able to learn more when you're taking the course. But looking at the curriculum now, no, lalo na yung mga STEM majors, marami silang mga general chemistry classes. So Gen Chem 1, Gen Chem 2. Yun din yung introductory general chemistry course. So as you develop those fundamentals, wala ka namang kailangan masyadong aralin pa as long as you develop the fundamentals.
And for our second question, I'm a skincare enthusiast. I want to formulate my own skincare products or maybe make it as my business. Do you have any tips if I should major in chemistry or biochemistry or should I major elsewhere? What are the pros and cons of each?
Grabe, ang galing, ang galing. So as parang high school ka pa lang alam mo na yung gagawin mo, no? So as a skincare enthusiast ka, I definitely suggest that you should major in chemistry. Chemistry kasi feeling ko, depende kasi siya sa kung skincare products ito, no, most of the materials that you wanted to incorporate would be organic materials. And I think that would be more tackled in chemistry than in biochemistry. You'll be able to learn kung ano yung mga materials na kapag pinaghalo mo, mayroong synergistic or antagonistic effect. So, matututunan mo siya as you go through the course. Nice.
Our third question, is an MS degree or PhD in chemistry valuable if you want a job in companies?
Yeah, that's a good question actually, and the answer is yes. No, malaki yung edge mo if you have an MS or a PhD in chemistry, especially if you're going into research. And although I don't really want to promote that you go outside the country, it's a must, no, sa ibang bansa that you have an MS and PhD. Especially if you're working, let's say, in pharmaceutical companies, no, nare-require talaga nila that you have a PhD in chemistry or in biochemistry or in any related field para makapag-work ka sa kanila.
Okay, and our last question, and a very timely one at that.
Yes.
How has the pandemic affected the line of work of chemists?
It's a really depressing time, no, for scientists kasi sobrang lala ng pandemic ngayon and we cannot just enter the laboratory premises without, let's say, proper documentation, no. Medyo mahirap mag-work sa lab ngayon, medyo nakakatakot din sa safety ng everyone. So sobrang affected, no, ng mga scientists natin sa pandemic. As of the moment, we've been doing rotations, no. Kapag gusto namin pumunta ng lab, hindi kami pwedeng sabay-sabay na nasa lab kasi it's against quarantine protocols. I think kung yung mga hindi lang siguro affected dito, most of the time yung mga computational chemists, no, they just work at home in front of their computers, so hindi sila gaanong affected. In industry, malaki din yung effect nito, no, ganun din yung nangyayari sa kanila, so hindi sila full shift on the week. Tapos sa bahay, hindi naman sila makakagawa kasi wala naman silang instruments or equipments na nasa bahay sila. So sana supposedly, no, sana mag-end na yung pandemic para makabalik na din yung businesses and makabalik na rin yung normal work ng mga chemists.
Okay, we have one more pahabol question. Is
Sure.
learning forensic science limited to chemistry, or can it extend to other fields like psychology and geology with a course of forensic science?
Yeah, that's a good question too, no? So, I don't really know the correct answer to this one, but my friend is a chemist and they seek for chemists. The PNP specifically seeks for chemists, I think, for that particular job opening. But I don't really know what's the curriculum for the BS Forensic Science in the University of Cordilleras, but you can check it out on their website, and check if they have courses related to psychology or to um, biology or molecular biology.
So that is our last question. Thank you, Mr. Santiago, and thank you guys for all your questions.
Thank you, guys.
From conducting research which can improve the lives of the people to creating, improving, and designing the actual future, STEM really does have so much to offer. Our next speaker offers a look into this future through STEM and field of engineering.
Our second speaker is a licensed engineer and assistant professor in the Institute of Civil Engineering of UP Diliman, where he obtained both his undergraduate and MS degrees. He also serves as the College of Engineering's Engineering Sciences Coordinator and holder of the Long Ridge Construction Incorporated Professorial Chair. In 2018, he was awarded the Limcauco Young Instructor Award for Teaching Excellence.
Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Giancarlo P. Ventura.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again to UPKAM for having me back this year. And this is a good opportunity for a lot of students to be introduced to the different fields of science and engineering. So please allow me to share my screen. Hey, now, I am a civil engineer, so this is what I am going to talk about today, this afternoon. Now, when I was growing up, I was always fond of playing Legos. Gusto ko yung laging pinagkakabit ang mga bagay-bagay, deconstruct things. Tapos when I was growing up too, laging ang alam ko lang, and I don't know if you have this or you had the same experience. Ang alam ko lang is pag sinabi mong engineer, we are always referring to a civil engineer. Tama ba? Pag laki ko, gusto kong maging engineer. Gusto kong gumagawa ng bahay, gusto kong gumagawa ng tulay, gusto kong gumagawa ng kalsada. But growing up, we have learned that there's a lot more. There are a lot of fields of engineering that we can go into. Then, nung nalaman ko yun, sabi ko, okay, I'm interested in civil engineering. But ang alam ko lang sa civil engineering ay yun nga, gumagawa ng bahay, gumagawa ng condominium, gumagawa ng tulay, inaayos yung mga kalsada. But when I started studying civil engineering, dun ko nalaman that civil engineering is a very wide and a very broad profession. So today, allow me to discuss the future, your future in civil engineering, because this is where I am from, and I would say our 6 flavors in civil engineering. Kasi hindi lang po yung mga binanggit ko kanina, yung mga ginagawa ng isang civil engineer. Civil engineering, I would say, is the oldest engineering discipline. And civil engineering connects the built environment to the natural environment. Anywhere we look, we see the applications of civil engineering without even knowing it. And what's my life like as a civil engineer? Now, I am from the academe, but I am also exposed to a lot of, because I am in the academe, I am also exposed to a lot of projects, researches, government, and private work, because they approach us for purposes of consultancy and research. Now, let me start with the academe. Now, every engineer, not only a civil engineer, enters engineering through engineering mechanics. Ito yung parang baptism ng bawat engineering student. Kahit anong course mo under the engineering college, you go through engineering mechanics. So engineering mechanics is the branch of engineering that deals with the effects of forces on objects. Like right now, kahit nasa bahay tayo, we see the application of engineering mechanics. Kung may nakatapat na electric fan sa'yo, bakit ganyan kabilis o bakit ganyan kabagal? Yung inuupuan mong chair right now, bakit kaya kang buhatin ng upuan na yan? All of these are or can be answered by engineering mechanics. So if you are first and foremost interested in the effects of forces in designing structures and maintaining equilibrium or balance, so this would be an eye-opener. Sabi nga ng aming mga engineering students, ito kumbaga yung ito yung wake-up call for you if engineering is for you or you need more time in engineering. But that's why this is also my purpose why I do not leave engineering mechanics courses. I always teach engineering mechanics courses because kadalasan pagpasok ng isang student, ito agad yung kinakatakutan. So my role is to make students realize that engineering mechanics is fun and there's a lot of application in engineering mechanics. And from engineering mechanics, I now go to, as I apply the concepts of engineering mechanics, I now apply it either in the field or numerically for us to be able to design, properly design and analyze structures. When I say structures such as vertical structures and horizontal structures. And actually, my line of interest and my line of research in civil engineering is more on disaster management, disaster risk management, numerical simulations, and foundation and soil mechanics. Now, in the Institute of Civil Engineering, kaya ko sinabing we have 6 fields in civil engineering because we can specialize in the following lines of civil engineering. We have construction engineering and management, geotechnical engineering, where I am from, structural engineering, which is my secondary group, water resources and coastal engineering, environmental and energy engineering, and transportation engineering. If you are interested in any one of these fields, a degree in civil engineering might be good for you. Let's try to talk about the different fields one by one. And just to note that what I like as well with engineering and sciences is that it's actually interdisciplinary. Hindi siya kumbaga nagfo-focus sa iisang field lamang. We cross-cut. Kumbaga we have partnerships with other engineering fields as well, and also in the sciences when we build structures, and when we analyze structures, it's a cross-cut, it's an interrelated field. Now, first is construction engineering and management. Ito yung laging sinasabi, ang laging biro sa amin sa civil engineering is civil engineering, so kayo yung mga construction worker, kayo yung nagbubuhat ng semento, kayo yung di ba? Nauso yata yung meme in the past few months, yung mga nagtitimpla ng semento. Actually, that's technically, theoretically, that's what we do in construction engineering and management. So that is why pwede nyong sisihin yung construction engineers ninyo, yung civil engineers ninyo, kung ba't may mga crack sa bahay ko, bakit parang yung floor ko hindi level, umaga. So as construction engineers and construction managers, so kasi sa field of civil engineering, pwedeng hindi ikaw yung nagde-design, pwedeng ikaw lang yung nagma-manage. So when we say construction engineering, our goal is to build better structures through effective engineering by using different materials, which are, ang pinaka-in ngayon ay yung environment friendly, renewable, cheap, recyclable. Ito po yung mga ginagawa natin. This is where we are moving towards in the line of construction engineering. And ito din, I think this has also been circulating in the past few months, in the past few years, yung tinatawag nating pervious concrete. So this solves problems on flooding. Okay? Try to imagine, lalo na ngayon, di ba, may paparating tayong bagyo. Okay? Try to imagine your road na kapag nabasa or kapag umuulan, okay, they will infiltrate through the concrete. Okay? Tapos magde-drain na siya kung saan man instead of being stagnant water. And in construction engineering, we also try to solve problems in construction materials, meaning paano kapag masyadong mahal yung bakal? Okay? Paano kapag masyadong mahal yung semento? Paano pag masyadong mahal yung bato? What are possible alternatives? So right now, ang mga yung mga patok ngayon that we try to solve or we try to use are kumbaga we try to recycle PET bottles as bricks or construction materials. Okay? So ganung mga bagay. We also have projects that deal with wherein we deal with trying to recycle and trying to reuse materials for construction. But if you're not that into construction work, pwede ding ikaw ay isang construction manager. Meaning parang foreman, no? Ikaw yung nagbabantay dun sa construction work. Okay? And what we do here as construction managers is we ensure that a project is on time. Okay? We ensure that the construction materials used are correct and walang daya. Now, before I go on, I think generally speaking, we need not only civil engineers, but we need engineers who have integrity. Kadalasan, ito yung downside. This is the sad truth about civil engineering. Kami yung nakikita nyo sa news na parang ito lang yung ginawang tulay, pero bakit milyon-milyon? Or bakit you might say milyon-milyon yung na-spend tapos ang pinakamainit ngayon, but I don't like to go into it in depth, yung Dolomite project. So we'll see that later on. Okay? So there's a lot of integrity involved in construction engineering because we ensure that the materials are correct and the materials are sufficient. Na hindi tayo dinadaya. Baka kasi mamaya yung bahay mo kailangan ng let's say isang truckload ng sand or ng bato, tapos yung dineliver sa'yo or yung ginamit pala dyan kalahati lang. Hindi na natin alam kung saan napunta yung the rest of what is supposed to be used for your house, for example. Okay? Anyway, going back, we are also tied with the UP Building Research Service. So the UP Building Research Service is our arm in the construction industry, and I'm running out of time. Yes, okay. And this is where the DPWH also comes in. They also partner up with the UP Building Research Service. Okay? And the next field is geotechnical engineering. This is where I am from. Sa geotechnical engineering, kami yung kumbaga, we are the people whose projects are unseen. Hindi nakikita yung work namin. And kami kadalasan yung quote-unquote frontliner in civil engineering. Okay? Kasi yung trabaho namin, kapag nakikita, nako, we have a problem. Okay? So kami yung nauuna bago mag-build ng bahay, yung tatayuan ba ng bahay mo is the soil and the geology of the site suitable for construction. We are also interested in tunnels, excavations, and landslides. So we also deal with this stuff. Lalo na tayo, we are in a country that is experiencing a lot of rainfall, and we are in a mountainous terrain, so napakaraming landslides. Okay? We also have structural engineering, the most common field in civil engineering. Okay? When we talk about structural engineering, yung pinaka-common ngayon na pinag-uusapan natin sa structural engineering is earthquake engineering. We are all expecting the big one. We don't know when it's going to happen, But this is a good example of a technology in earthquake engineering that we are trying to explore. This is, if you look at the video, kahit nag-shake yung lupa, yung building sa taas or yung structure sa taas, hindi gumagalaw at all. So ang galing, di ba? Even you experience massive shaking in the earth, your structure is still stable. And aside from earthquake engineering, we also do wind engineering. So ano yung effect ng malalakas na hangin sa ating mga bahay? And in the time of a pandemic, some of my colleagues were involved in building temporary structures and temporary facilities for testing and for quarantine purposes. Next, we also have water resources and coastal engineering. We see water anywhere, and sabi nga nila, water is life. Di ba? Yun yung gas-gas na kasabihan. And when we talk about water resources and coastal engineering, if you want to study the distribution of water in different places, the storage of water, the quality of water, the flow of water, this might be a good field for you to explore. And in the field of coastal engineering, napakainit din po nito. We only have very few coastal engineers in the country. So yung Dolomite project, was that correct? Was that incorrect? Or should they have consulted coastal engineers for dahil kung nandoon na, kung before hindi siya nag-consult, I don't know. Kung ngayon na nandun na, what are the engineering interventions that we could do? The correct engineering interventions doon sa coast of Manila Bay. So if you are interested in flood protection, drainage and sewerage systems, yung mga ganung bagay, water resources and coastal engineering is a good field for you. Another is environmental and energy engineering. Ito din yung medyo in ngayon. Gusto kasi natin yung mga yung mga binibuild natin coming from renewable sources, recyclable materials. So napakahalaga ng protection of the environment in civil engineering. Because actually in any project in the field of civil engineering, kailangan muna din natin ng mga permit that is related to the environment. We make sure that the project hindi nakakasira sa kalikasan, walang impact na masama na maidudulot sa environment. And what we also do in environment and energy engineering is that aside from those types of work that I have previously mentioned, we also ensure quality. Quality of, now there are some of my colleagues are also involved in esteros and sa different river systems natin. So yung mga basura na nandun, yung mga landfill natin. So if you are interested in those types of dirty work, but again, sabi nga nila, may pera sa basura. And finally is transportation engineering. Ito din na naman, napakainit na topic in civil engineering. What are our transportation engineers doing to solve traffic, especially in Metro Manila? So are our roads properly designed? Or yun nga ba yung solusyon sa traffic? Or meron nga ba tayong magandang public transportation system? Baka yun yung solusyon. So if you want to know the answers to those types of questions, you may explore the field of transportation engineering. In transportation engineering, we try to design roads to be efficient. Not only highways, we also deal with railway design, so yung mga train natin, airport design, port design, so land, water, and air. We do that in transportation engineering. So in a nutshell, I'm showing you here, we are now in a 4-year curriculum in the civil engineering program. But the civil engineering program promises us to deliver on all the different fields of civil engineering with, of course, if you look at the first few years, with the proper science and math prerequisites. So if you are interested in the built environment and how we are able to connect the natural environment with the built environment, it's a good opportunity for you to explore the field of civil engineering. Napakarami ko pang gustong i-share, but I think my time is almost up. And my point here is that, just to end, yes, napakaraming civil engineers in the country right now. But what we need are civil engineers who specialize on the various fields that I have talked about. Right? And we need engineers who have a lot of integrity. Right? So thank you very much. If you have any questions, that ends my talk for this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Engineer Ventura, for that very interesting talk on the 6 flavors of the civil engineering profession. Indeed, the civil engineering profession has become vital in creating more sustainable and environmentally friendly structures and systems.
To further improve on the discussion, we would like to open the floor for your questions to our speaker.
Okay, so can I answer this now? So are there a lot of opportunities for civil engineers in the Philippines? Right? The answer is yes. Right? Now, being a civil engineer, you can go in the field of the academe. You can also go in government work. Work with the Department of Public Works and Highways. So that's the most common. You can also go to the private sector, right, in big companies such as, for example, DMCI, right, the Consunhi companies, Holcim. But I think to be more specific with this, ang pinaka-problem yata ng students, ng people right now or ng civil engineers ay napakarami. Yes, right? Marami tayong civil engineers. Right? So my advice would be for you to specialize in a certain field of civil engineering. Because most of our engineers right now are or practice general engineering. So mahalaga sa atin or maganda na makakapag-specialize tayo on a certain field of engineering. Okay?
Our next question. Gaano po ka-important na magaling ka sa math when it comes to civil engineering?
Thank you for this question. I think I'll answer this na, let me revise the question. Gaano po ka-important na magaling ka sa math when it comes to engineering? Diba? Para mas general. Well, number one, nakakatulong. It helps. Because undoubtedly, we do a lot of work in math, right? A lot of computational work in engineering. But it is not a prerequisite na magaling tayo sa math. Kasi before, akala ko din, yan yung kadalasang sinasabi ng teachers natin ng elementary or high school, di ba? Galing ka sa math, mag-engineering ka. Pero pagdating mo sa college, doon mo malalaman na hindi pala sapat. Right? So, it's good. It's a good advantage, but it's not a prerequisite. Because when you go to engineering, napakarami yung math kasi natin hindi lang basta-bastang plus or minus, kumbaga. There are a lot of processes, engineering processes involved na more than our mathematics. So okay lang kung hindi kayo magaling sa math, it's okay. You can excel on the other fields na kailangan natin in engineering. But that's a good advantage if you're good in math.
And for our third question, why do we have only a few super tall skyscrapers in the Philippines?
Okay, why do we have only a few super tall skyscrapers in the Philippines? Number one is, aside from it being expensive, I think that's the number one answer to that. In the context of our soils, some of or a lot of our soils are problematic such that hindi niya kayang mag-support ng napakatataas na structures. Okay? Another possible answer here is that, well, ang problema kasi natin ngayon, hindi pa natin siya nakikita. Ngayon kasi doon tayo papunta pa lang. So we might see rise in structures, we might see projects coming in right now na condominiums would be a good example kasi ang labanan na ngayon in civil engineering is space. Napakamahal po ng space. That's why a lot of developers right now are trying to go in the allow me to call it vertical industry. So papunta pa lang po tayo doon. Okay? So paubos na kasi yung space natin. Okay?
And for our fourth question, with the pandemic hampering most of the government projects, do you think po if civil engineering is a viable course in the next few years?
Okay. Good question. Very affected po ang construction and engineering industry natin ngayon. Lalo na in the past several months nung paumpisa yung pandemic. At least now, may mga quarantine protocols and nagsimula na ulit mag-resume yung projects but not at full scale pa rin. Now, in the next few years, would it be a viable option? Yes. Kasi hindi lang naman sa field yung ating work as engineers. We also do numerical work and actually yan yung pinagtutuunan ng pansin ng napakaraming companies and ng government agencies in the past few months, and they have also been consulting with us, right? Na kaya ba nating subukan na ipasok sa engineering education yung tinatawag nating new normal, okay? So there are a lot of new normal practices na actually nag-exist naman before. Pero hindi lang natin gaanong pinapansin kasi iba yung way of living natin. So engineering is still a viable option for you in the next few years. Okay? Hindi po hindi nawawala yung opportunity for engineering sa atin.
And for our last question, I'm interested in both engineering and research. Is it possible to do both in the civil engineering program?
Wow, I want to meet you because only a few students are interested in research these days. Hey, so yes, we do, especially I think if you are in the academe, there's a lot of opportunities for research. So aside from theory, ang gusto natin these days ay naghahanap tayo ng alternative solutions. And we are involved in a lot of projects right now wherein we try to solve problems or we try to resolve old problems with newer solutions. So there's opportunity for research in engineering in general. So thank you for your questions.
That's our last question na po. The floor is now closed. Thank you again, Engineer Ventura, and thank you guys for all your questions.
After our first two very insightful talks, let's take a little breather. You could go for a bathroom break or get some snacks, but be sure to come back in 5 minutes because we still have a lot in store for you.
We'll see you guys in a bit. Hello, guys. Welcome back. We are so excited to have you join us again in the second part of our program. Stick around until the end because we have an ongoing raffle draw. Two lucky participants would receive a Die Curious drawstring bag courtesy of the Chem online shop, and another two people would win a shirt from Kosh.
All right, I'm feeling all refreshed now. I can't wait to hear more about our next series of talks. I think we want to learn more about our experiences in STEM.
That's right. The first two speakers taught us a lot about their respective fields, but because STEM is such a wide field, we know there's still much to learn.
That's why we've invited our third speaker to talk about the world of biology and genetics, which are very relevant today.
All right. Our third speaker currently serves as the director of UP Diliman's Institute of Biology, as well as a Professor 5 tenured in 2012. He finished both his undergraduate and master's degree in biology in the same university, while moving to the University of Nottingham, UK, where he finished his doctorate in genetics. He has worked with various institutions around the world as a UP scientist to produce more than 50 publications in the fields of genetics, evolution, molecular phylogenetics, and malacology.
So without further ado, let's all welcome our third speaker, Dr. Ian Kendrick Fontanilla.
Hello, good morning. Sorry, good afternoon. I hope you can hear me now. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So let me just share my screen. Oops. Okay. So thank you for inviting me. It's truly an honor for me to share our experiences as biologists. So in this slide, well, what you're seeing right now shows you just a flavor of the kind of work biologists do. So when you think of biology, particularly BS biology, only most of you, I'm quite sure, would think of BS biology as a pre-med course. Although we do need a lot of doctors, we also do need a lot of biologists in many fields, particularly to address many of our society's problems. So ito yung gusto kong ipakita na masaya din ang maging isang biologist. Now, to give you an idea of the kind of biology I do, let me just go directly into a particular incident wherein we got involved with. Now, in around 2013, I don't know how old you were then. I think baka wala pa kayo sa high school noon. There was this Chinese ship that run aground to Bataha. So if you're familiar with Tubataha, it's that marine protected area between Palawan and Western Visayas, and it has a very diverse coral reef system. Now, because this fishing vessel ran aground our reef, so the Philippine Coast Guard had to tow the ship back to Puerto Princesa for them to be processed. Now, after a few days, okay, so these are the Chinese fishermen who were a part of that fishing vessel. Now, after a few days, they realized that this particular ship, merong lumalabas na mabahong umaalingasaw mula doon sa boat or sa ship. And then this is because it was docked, the generators were turned off, and therefore the refrigerants that were stored, that were present in the ship, were also turned off. So yung mga nakastore doon sa mga refrigerators and freezers, and unti-unting nabubulok. So the authorities, particularly the Philippine Coast Guard, boarded the ship once again to determine what these bad-smelling or decaying stuff that were stored in the ship. And lo and behold, so there was, ito yung nakita nila, sacks and upon sacks of decaying or decomposing bodies of what turned out to be pangolins. Okay, so if you're familiar with pangolins, we have some endemic species here, actually one endemic species here in the Philippines, and that is Manis culianensis, or the Palawan pangolin. Now this one, ito yung mga pinapakita sa picture na to, these are dressed pangolins. So when I say dressed pangolins, if you think of dressed chickens, these are just pangolins without their scales. Tapos tinanggal na yung lamang loob. At usually they are stored in separate containers or they are fresh frozen. Okay? So yan yung example ng mga pangolins. Yan. So, so there was this major question posed by the authorities, particularly by the DNR, Department of Environment Natural Resources, Protected Areas and Wildlife Bureau, or PAWB, which has now transitioned to the Biodiversity Management Bureau. So sabi nila, ito bang pangolin na na-confiscate natin dito sa mga Chinese fishermen na to, are these Philippine pangolins or are they other pangolins? So for them, they were in this quandary because were not taxonomic experts. So hindi nila ma-identify kung tama nga yung species designation. And more importantly, the identifying characteristics of these pangolins were already removed. Nawala na yung mga scales, natanggal na yung mga lamang loob, tapos some of the heads were already removed. So how could they possibly identify these specimens to the correct species? Because if you will note, there are actually 8 known pangolins on Earth, okay, 4 of which are found in Africa and 4 are found in Asia. In the Philippines, we have this one, the Philippine pangolin, Manis culiensis. And this one is a protected species, it's an endemic species. Okay? So ito yung 4 na pangolins, okay? So the Philippines has a unique or an endemic species that is found only here in the Philippines and nowhere else. In fact, its distribution is restricted only to Palawan. Okay? And then after a few more weeks, meron na bang na-discover or na-confiscate na 23 live Palawan pangolins. This time from Filipinos. Okay? Now you may ask, bakit kino-confiscate? Now this is because Palawan pangolins, like any other endemic species, they are protected by Philippine laws and they should not be trafficked. Okay? Hindi sila dapat tinitrade, binebenta, kinakain, etc. Okay? So, and then later on, after a year or almost a year, the Palawan Council for Sustainable Development uncovered truckloads of illegal wildlife products, including frozen pangolins. So kung makikita nyo to, ayan, Philippine pangolins yan na na-confiscate. Now you may ask, sino ba ang bumibili ng mga pangolins na to? Well, actually, ang bumibili nito ay yung mga nasa mainland China, because their scales are supposed to have medicinal properties. So a kilogram of pangolin scales would fetch around 5,000 pesos, okay? Just 1 kilogram. But if you imagine, if you're going to get 1 kilogram of pangolin scales, how many pangolins will you have to kill, okay? Also, these pangolins are considered exotic food. So pagka binenta mo sa Chinese market, pataas ang kanilang market value, okay? Now, at this point, I would like to highlight the rich biodiversity of the Philippines. In fact, the Philippines is considered one of the mega biodiversity hotspots on Earth, in that we have a very high endemicity of various specimens or species, and many of these are threatened or endangered precisely because of habitat loss. Kasi nag-encroach na tayo sa kanilang mga titirhan, sa kanilang mga habitats, at sila ngayon ay nagiging threatened or endangered. Okay. Now, there are enabling laws that allow us to protect these endemic species. So the Philippines is a signatory of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, or CITES. It is an international agreement among governments to ensure that the trade in wild animals and plants does not threaten their survival. Further to that, we also have a Republic Act 9147, or the Wildlife Resources Conservation and Protection Act, which strictly prohibits the capture, sale, and transport of critically endangered or threatened species. So kung meron kayong endemic species sa inyong mga tahanan, maaari kayong mahuli o huliin at i-prosecute at sampahan ng kaso batay sa Republic Act 9147. Okay? Pero ang problema ng ating mga law enforcement agents ay hindi sila marunong mag-identify because they're not taxonomists themselves. They're law enforcement agents. Either because they don't have enough knowledge, or that the animals they confiscate or plants are no longer intact. For example, they are processed. And then there are also limitations in identifying species based on the morphology alone. So dito pumapasok yung DNA barcoding. Okay? So in DNA barcoding, we make use of molecules to identify an unknown individual to known species. So parang katulad lang din yan ng nakikita sa CSI to rule out other individuals and to pinpoint a particular suspect using DNA, or katulad ng ginagawa natin sa COVID testing. We detect the genetic material of the virus in our system in order to determine if you're infected with the virus or not. So the principle is the same, except that in the COVID virus, what we detect is the RNA because the RNA is their genetic material. Okay. So in DNA barcoding, you make a small section of DNA sequences from a standardized region of the genome. So for animals, you can use several genes. For plants, another set of genes. So through barcoding, unknown individuals could be assigned to species. Okay? So parang ang DNA sequences natin for specific regions can act like a universal product code. So I'm sure many of you have been to shopping malls, groceries, department stores, at nakikita ninyo ito, yung universal product code, wherein pagka tinamaan lang yan ng laser ng doon sa cash register, malalaman na kung anong product yan at magkano. Ganun din ang DNA barcoding. If you get the sequence of a particular gene region, you can already identify the species designation of that unknown individual. Okay? So in our lab, in the Institute of Biology, UP Diliman, this is an actual COI DNA barcode of the Philippine eagle, one of the very first barcodes that we have generated in the Philippines for the wildlife database. Okay, so if we go back to the case, so the DNR, particularly the Protected Areas and Wildlife Bureau, now called the Biodiversity Management Bureau, sent us 85 unidentified pangolins, 12 from the Tubataha case that involves a Chinese fisherman, and 73 confiscated from the Filipinos. And then we also compared the sequences with a known specimen of Manis culienensis, yung Palawan pangolin, from the Catala Foundation and Palawan Council for Sustainable Development, both of which are found in Palawan. So ito yung analysis lang namin. This is a phylogenetic tree to determine the location of the unknown specimens. So based on our analysis, all the unidentified specimens grouped with the Asian cluster. So ito yung African, ito yung Asian, lahat ng mga unknown specimens nasa Asian. So sigurado tayo na hindi sila nanggaling sa Africa. Next, tinignan namin ngayon kung saan makikita yung ating mga na-confiscate sa Palawan mula sa mga Pilipino. All Palawan samples clustered with the reference Manis culienensis reference sample with the sequences that are highly similar. Nag-range ng 0 to 0.4% ang difference lang. So, ibig sabihin, all these specimens are definitely Palawan pangolins. And therefore, these Filipinos were charged with the violation of Republic Act 9147. Now, the next question is, what about those pangolins that were recovered from the Chinese vessel? So we tried to find out where they fall, and true enough, they clustered with Manis javanica. These are the mainland Southeast Asian pangolins, but not the Philippine pangolins. So based on our results, the two Bataa samples were Manis javanica. So based on our investigation, hindi namin pwedeng kasuhan ang mga Chinese fishermen na to for the violation of Republic Act 9147. Okay? So dito umusbong dito nagsimula ang wildlife forensics sa Pilipinas because ang mga taga-DNRs, particularly the wildlife enforcement officers, they needed experts to help them in determination of species identification, the provenance or where these specimens come from. And so with the help of the University of the Philippines, particularly the Institute of Biology, we teamed up so that we can come up with a set of protocols, thus paving the way for wildlife forensics to be utilized here in the Philippines. So this was our first major case na hinandle. And we have handled many cases since. Okay, so just to seg with what we are doing, so we established a DNA barcoding of life Philippine web network all the way back in 2008 pa. And it's an ongoing research program that aims to DNA barcode as many Philippine species as possible, with the primary focus on threatened and endemic and economically important species through a collaborative effort with local institutions. So it's not just UP, but also other universities and other research institutions together with the DNR. So I hope, despite what you get in the news, don't get the impression that the government institutions and agencies like the DNR and the UP are working in isolation. So matagal na ang aming partnership with the DNR, particularly the Biodiversity Management Bureau. Okay? So ganito lang sa wildlife forensics, basically you have some sample and then you have some pre-laboratory processing, and then we extract the DNA and amplify a specific region of the genome, sequence that, and then we try to determine its closest homology and then do phylogenetic analysis, because this is just the application of evolutionary studies, because I'm also an evolutionary biologist, but with a practical application. And then we come up with a case report, which we submit to the DENR. Okay? So ito lang yung pinapakita ko lang sa inyo, yung aming ginagawa. Ito yung aming DNA barcoding lab at Wildlife Forensics Lab. Ito yung isa sa mga team members namin, si Sir Greg. Yan, pinapakita niya kung saan nakastore yung mga tissue samples and even DNA samples from various cases. Ito naman si Gerard, who does the PCR amplification to sequence, to eventually send the samples for sequencing. At ito naman si Sir Adrian Luxon, who database or catalog all the sequences together with the morphological and collection data for every specimen, and then we submit that to a universal database. Okay? So, isa-send ko na rin dito yung aming institute. So, the Institute of Biology in UP din naman offers several degree programs. So, you have the BS Biology program, which I hope you'll consider, not just for a pre-med course, but possibly for a career in wildlife forensics and other fields. So we also offer diploma in biology. This one is a post-baccalaureate degree. So we have MS Biology, MS Microbiology, PhD Biology, and soon we will also have a PhD Microbiology. So the mission of the Institute is to generate and translate knowledge through integrative and innovative researches that address various needs in our society while protecting Philippine biodiversity and environment for sustainable and responsible economic growth and development. So ang aming primary consideration is Philippine biodiversity. Okay? So ito yung ating mantra, tropical biodiversity from genes to ecosystem. So ito yung ating mga areas that you might want to venture into. Urban ecology, climate change ecology, restoration biology, biodiversity science, forensic biology, biopharmacology and bioindustry, bioinformatics, signaling, infection and immunity, genetics of ontogeny. Basically, we look at development, the mechanisms of development, and even cancer. So, pagka natayo na yung PGHD naman, magkakaroon din ng strong research arm, which will one of which will focus on cancer research, and then the College of Science is best positioned to provide experts in cancer research. Okay? So, ito yung ating reality na gusto ko lang pong i-highlight sa ating audience. Kailangan talaga natin ng mga scientists sa isang bansa tulad natin para tayo ay umusad. Okay? So, just to give an idea, the small country of Israel has about 8,300 scientists per million people, followed by Singapore with 6,700 and South Korea with 5,300. And as you will realize, the more scientists a country has, then the more people who can provide various solutions to many of society's problems. So where is the Philippines in this list? The Philippines is way down there with only 189 scientists per million people. So kung imagine nyo, ilan lang ang mga scientists natin na tumutugon sa paglutas ng mga problema ng ating bansa. Hindi tayo sa pinakababa, pero wag tayong aasa na tayo ay uusad at uunlad kung papag-iiwanan naman natin ang ating STEM education in order to generate more scientists and engineers for our country. Because if we try to downplay science and then ignore science altogether, then we will always end up with half-baked solutions that do not even address major problems. Ito pala is na haiku which was created only this week kasi nauuso na yung Tuesday haiku. Anyway, so I just wanted to show this. So thank you. So for the love of Philippine biodiversity, I hope some of you will consider a degree program in biology. So maraming salamat.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fontanilla, for that very enlightening talk. Indeed, there is a great need for more scientists and engineers in the country, and I hope you guys consider that. I am sure our audience wants to know more about the field of biology and genetics, so we're opening the floor again for questions.
You may send your questions via private message here on Zoom or comment it on YouTube. So for our first question, I think biology is a very diverse subject, Bob. How would I know the branch I should focus on, especially if I am interested in multiple biology subjects?
Okay, that's a very good question. In many BS Bio programs, not just in UP Diliman, but in other universities as well, they have general biology courses like Fundamentals of Biology 1 and 2 in the case of UP Diliman, which gives you all the major fields in a nutshell. And then that will provide you an idea to give you a flavor of the different fields, and that will give you an idea where you should focus on. But one thing I would like to emphasize, being a biologist, is that you really cannot do away with chemistry, because in order for you to understand biology, you must have a strong background in chemistry as well. So bago pa man kayo tumuntong ng biology, ang prerequisite na ng mga courses ng bio namin ay yung chem, like Chem 16. Tapos kailangan din, meron din kayong adequate background in math. Okay? Now, these are courses that you need not fear, kasi, I don't know, nauuna ang problema sa atin kasi nauuna yung takot bago natin subukan. Para lang namang pag-ibig din yan, bago kayo maunahan ng takot, edi subukan na ninyo kaagad. At doon yung malalaman kung ito'y swak na sa inyo o hindi. Pero huwag kayo maunahan ng takot.
Wow, that was very nice. So for our second question, hello po, bio po ba talaga ang best pre-med course or are there other more courses I should enter?
Okay, so I am assuming you want to become a doctor. Take note that marami pong mga pre-med courses na mainam kunin. Pwede niyong kunin yung BS Chemistry. It is a very good pre-med course. BS Biology is also a suitable pre-med course. BS Psychology, okay din yun. Yun ang pwede kong masabi. Kasi pagdating naman sa med, i-rehash nyo rin yung lahat. Okay? Pero maganda sana yung mga preparations na ino-offer ng mga science-based na courses. Okay? At yun nga lang, pagka ikaw ay pupunta sa chemistry or sa biology, for instance, marami kayong, pagpasok nyo sa medicine, marami kayong maiisip na o habang kayo dumada ng chemistry at biology, marami kayong mga moments na nag-iisip na, kailangan ko ba itong plant taxonomy sa medicine? Kailangan ko ba itong physical chemistry sa medicine? So kailangan ba itong field biology, ganon? But it's not really just the application, but the skills that you learn. So kahit na anong degree program na daanan pa man ninyo, kung ang passion nyo naman talaga ay mag-medicine, ay magagawa din yun ng paraan. There's no single best pre-med course that will prepare you to medicine, but there are several that will hopefully prepare you to several courses in medicine. Yun lang.
For our third question, are there a lot of opportunities for biology graduates in the Philippines aside from medicine and research?
Yes. Actually, pwede kayong pumunta sa academe, magturo. We need a lot of teachers, particularly in high school and in grade school. And then we also need people to work in the industry. You can be a biologist and work in the industry, in the pharmaceutical companies. For example, Unilab, okay, and then microbiologists in particular are in big demand nowadays, especially in the industry. Tapos ano pa ba? You can also work in the government, like in the DENR, okay, at saka sa DOS, the Department of Science and Technology. So, and then of course, you can also set up your own company that is based on biology, biochemistry, or chemistry. Okay lang yun. So, being a biologist, you can actually have many avenues. Just in my own experience, because we have handled a lot of students already, meron kami mga estudyante na after BS Biology, naging artists. naging science communicators, naging writers, naging journalists. There's one I know na naging fashion designer. Merong isa na nag-set up ng sariling coffee shop, okay? Using or applying the skills he learned in microbiology and chemistry. Tapos merong iba naging pumunta na lang sa showbiz. so marami kayong pwedeng puntahan at yung natutunan niyo sa biology, marami yung pwedeng i-apply sa maraming fields. Ngayon kung tatanungin namin kung yayaman kayo o hindi, well, ang tanong ko lang ibabalik ko lang ang tanong sa inyo, magkano ba ang happiness? Nabibili ba ang happiness? Yun lang.
Our next question is I'm interested in sorry, wrong question and a flash po. I'm interested in pursuing biomedical engineering and related research, though since it's a very vast field, I'm sort of lost. I've been eyeing UPD's MBB course. Would you say that this is a good start po, or am I better off taking an engineering course?
Okay. Biomed engineering. Okay. Meron kaming students before who took up BS Bio, but they wanted to go to bioengineering, so they really took up engineering as a second degree. So medyo circuitous yung kanilang kinuha. Pero yun kasi ang passion nila, so they pushed through or they went ahead. But I think the MBB program, the Molecular Biology and Biotechnology program of UP Diliman, is a very good place to start if you want to specialize in that area. Partly because they have courses that are catered towards that degree program. And then maybe, just maybe, you can also take some elective courses in engineering, provided that you satisfy their prerequisites. So baka, in UP Diliman, marami sa mga courses ngayon nag-o-offer na ng minor. So for example, you can take a BS Molecular Biology and Biotechnology minor in up to 18 units of courses in another program. Just to give an example, sa amin sa BS Biology, if you want to become a paleontologist or an archaeologist, you can take BS Biology, major in paleontology. So 18 units from the National Institute of Geological Sciences. So marami yun. So isa pa pala, nakalimutan ko sabihin, pwede kang maging archaeologist after taking BS Biology. And we actually have one archaeologist who's already working with the National Museum.
Our next question, ano pong difference ng BS Biology and BS MBB in UP Diliman?
Okay. BS MBB is more focused on molecular biology and biotechnology talaga. Whereas BS Biology is more broad. It covers other areas, particularly the fields of ecology, biodiversity, and evolution. Although these can also be tackled at the molecular level by MBB. So depending on kung anong gusto mong i-specialize, because the field of molecular biology is also diverse at marami ring opportunities doon. So if you're into that area, then go to molecular biology and biotechnology. But if you're more into for example, cancer research or field biology or climate change or para bang ecological perspectives or approaches or seeking solutions at that level, then maybe you should take BS Biology instead. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Our next question, does the field of biology get enough support and funding from the Philippine government?
Okay. Actually, hindi naman problema yung support. This may become as a shock to many of you, but the Philippine government has been very, very supportive of research. Ang kalaban lang talaga ng the more major problem of scientists is that we don't have enough people to write proposals. Kasi the government won't just give you money. You have to present a proposal. You have to craft a question and then come up with methodology in order for the government to say, okay, we'll fund that. But as I've said, there are only 189 scientists per million and not all of them are in the academe or in research. So, iilan lang ang pwedeng mag-apply. So, laging, in many instances, DOST would end up na para bang, hindi natin nauubos yung pera kasi enough yung hindi sapat yung nag-a-apply. Kaya maraming mga tao nagagat sa DOST o sa government, bakit yung kinakalta sa yung DOST? Yung budget, kasi nga, in many instances, hindi nauubos yung pera for research. So that's why we need more scientists and engineers to apply for research grants. And it's not just UP, sana ibang universities din. And that's why my appeal to you, mga high school students, is to consider a career in science. Kasi maraming pera sa research. And I can attest to that. Marami kaming pera sa research, hindi kami magkanda-ugaga, hirap kami dahil iinan lang kami. Ang malaking problema namin, second major problem, is procurement. Because we have to follow the COA rules, so we will have to follow the bidding process. Yung mga ganun. Kasi kung hindi, baka kami ay mga ombudsman. Kasi hindi katulad ng ibang mga tao dyan, kaming mga scientists at mga sa academic, talagang sinusunod namin ang rules ng COA kasi alam naming hard-earned taxpayers money yon. Okay? So mababait kaming mga scientists.
And for our next question, what courses should I take if I want to pursue biotechnology and molecular biology? Are there any opportunities in the Philippines regarding biotechnology?
Ay, oo, marami. So if you're going to go to that, I suggest you go to chemistry or BS biochemistry or molecular biology and biotechnology. In the Institute of Biology, you can also venture to biotechnology or molecular biology because we also offer cell biology, physiology, ano pa ba, cancer research, cancer biology, etc. So marami kayong pwedeng pagpipilian. But kung gusto nyo talaga, either you go to chemistry or molecular biology and biotechnology. And yes, there are opportunities. In fact, the Philippine Genome Center, which is based in the UP system, we now have satellite offices in Visayas and Mindanao. They are in dire need of people who would work in the institution. Okay? Either as contractual or as full-time staff. Yun.
Okay, we have another question. Are there subsections in forensic biology? If so, what are much needed in the Philippines?
Sections or different areas within forensic biology. Actually, marami yan. There is forensic botany, wherein you identify plant specimens. There is toxicology, forensic toxicology. I try to identify the different toxins present in a dead body or whatever. There is pathology, which is actually more of a medical field. And then there is, actually, there's also forensic psychology, if you want to, but that's not really a field of biology. And there's also forensic engineering and forensic chemistry. So maraming fields on forensic science, basically. For those of you who are interested, you may want to pursue forensic science doon sa University of Cordilleras, or you can take either chemistry, engineering, or biology here as a BS program. And then we also have master's programs that specialize on forensic science. Yun.
Okay, for our last question, can DNA barcoding also detect illnesses? Does this specialty also create treatment or medicine for those illnesses, or is there another field or specialty for that?
Okay. DNA barcoding is an umbrella term. Basically, yung ginagawa natin sa forensics, sa COVID testing, or yung try natin sa dengue, wherein we try to determine the presence of a pathogen. That is DNA barcoding per se. You just identify or zero in on the pathogen para makita ninyo kung naandun siya o wala. Now, alternatively, you can also do shotgun sequencing or next generation sequencing rather to correlate genetic differences across individuals to account for differences in disease resistance or disease vulnerability and propensity for certain conditions. For example, bakit sa ibang mga tao na mas prone sa hypertension or sa diabetes kumpara sa ibang tao pero pare-pareho lang naman ang kanilang lifestyle. It could also be due to genetic variations at pwede ma-detect yan through next generation sequencing. Yun. So if you want to go into that area, I suggest you go to molecular biology and biotechnology.
And now the floor is closed. Again, thank you for all your questions. We learned more about forensic biology, opportunities, biotechnology, molecular biology, and others thanks to them.
Thank you.
For our next part, we want to introduce to you our very own field of interest.
As chemical engineers, we have a huge contribution in almost every part in the production of numerous chemical products you use daily.
We have invited another speaker to introduce the field of chemical engineering, the opportunities and challenges it entails.
The next speaker is a graduate of BS and Master's degree in Chemical Engineering from the Mapua Institute of Technology. He has more than 20 years of experience in the industry with companies such as Philips Semiconductors, SunPower MFG Limited, and Deca Technologies Incorporated. He was a faculty member of the Malayan Colleges Laguna, Lyceum of the Philippines Laguna, and Colegio de San Juan de Letran. He is also currently a technical assessor for DTI PIB and a technical director for NASAT Labs.
Please
Please
welcome
welcome.
Engineer Marlon Liana.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Okay, thanks. Actually, you forgot to mention that I worked for the semiconductor for many years. So yun yung topic ko for today. Anyway, welcome everyone. Thanks for inviting me. Let me begin by sharing my screen. Okay, hold on. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me start by introducing my company, NASAT Labs. NASAT stands for Nanotech Analytical Services and Training. So the logo there is actually a cantilever, which is one of the instrument for nanotechnology. So we have the list is the services that we offer for most the industry and the academe. We do failure analysis and material characterization. We do water and environmental testing. I do a lot of consultation services for several companies. I do lots of technical trainings. In fact, we are an accredited CPD provider for accredited by the PRC for chemical engineers and chemists. So one day when you graduate, you can visit our website and look for possible training courses in which you can earn points to renew your chemical engineer license. I do lots of scientific talks to various universities and organizations. We have some research collaborations with different companies and academe. We accept immersion programs, not only for students, but also to professors who are doing teaching in STEMs and who plans to work for industry outside of the academia. So this is one of the activity that we do to support the STEM educations in the Philippines. Another activity that we do to support STEM is the educational tours. We do accept lots of educational tours for various schools and universities around the Philippines who'd like to visit us and see the different instruments, advanced instruments that we have in our laboratory. So this slide is the picture of the lab that we have in Muntinlupa. So that's in near Alabang, near Bilibid. So this is the inside of it. So you'll see the different instruments. Majority of them are for semiconductors and nanotechnology. So this is the other lab that we have in Cabuyao, Laguna. So that's beside the Malayan College. So this is we call water and environmental laboratory. So the ground floor of this building is where some of the advanced instruments for water and environmental testings are situated. And you can see some of the instruments here like atomic absorption, the ICP, the UV-Vis, particle size, and we also have a microbiome lab within the facility. So I took pictures of some of the things that we do for trainings and workshops. And this is some of them are done in our facility, some are done in the customer's facility. So like in here, we did workshops at IRI, International Rice Research Institute, and in Los Baños. And this is pictures on the bottom bottom right is workshops that we did at the University of the Philippines, UPD MME, where professors of material science are have attended the workshops. And some pictures here are done at the facility of the uh, industry or companies. These are some pictures that I did for several organizations across the Philippines for invitations. Some are through the different organizations, industry organizations like the semiconductor industry. Some pictures here are big scientific events that we organized in the past. We invited professors from Taiwan, from US, from Japan, and Australia. They gathered in the Philippines, and we organized called the Materia Manila. And these are some of the pictures that we did for the educational tours and immersion programs for faculty members. So in support of the universities and schools, some of the faculty members are equipped with some book knowledge, but they lack the facility to supplement themselves with experience. So to help the universities and faculty members, we accept immersion programs for that. So since I work more than 20 years in the semiconductor as a chemical engineer, so I'd like to give you some ideas of the things we do in the semiconductor, and maybe I can help to encourage you, why a semiconductor company is one of the important industry in the Philippines. So let's begin with their contributions to the economy. So in 2018, the semiconductor and electronics contributed to more than 60% of the total exports. So the rest, 40% are combined industries like machineries, metal components and miscellaneous manufactured articles. There are only 40%, but 60% of the total exports are, because of the semiconductor industries. And in 2019, this increased to 61.6%, so accounting for more than 43 billion US dollars worth of export. So what does it mean to you? So it means that most likely, if you are, planning to go into science educations, science and technology educations, or engineering educations, a big chance that you will end up in the semiconductor company. And semiconductor companies pays good money for chemical engineers and any other engineering disciplines, and their technology is more advanced than any other technologies that you can find in other industries. So if you work for the semiconductors, most likely the first few years of working with them, you'll be exposed to advanced technologies that you've never been experienced, you've never seen while you were in your schools. So what is it in the semiconductor and electronics industries? There are actually several steps. Now, the semiconductor begins with a sand, a sand, and it's actually processed to form into ingots, and eventually these ingots are sliced and fabricated into semiconductor wafers. So this one, these first three steps are usually done outside of the Philippines, and mostly done in Europe, in US, and in Asia. This is done in Taiwan, in Korea, and Japan. So in Philippines, the steps begin with these wafers are actually fabricated or assembled into semiconductor components called the chips. And this, assembled semiconductor chips is mounted into the printed circuit boards, and these printed circuit boards are assembled into a equipments, or gadgets as we know it. So these gadgets, so starting from here up to here, so this can be done in the Philippines and other Asian countries. So I work for the semiconductor assembly of components, and so I'd like to, concentrate my uh, careers discussions on these assembled components. So there are many areas as a chemical engineer, or not even a chemical engineer. You can also work for a semiconductor, even if you're a chemist or a mechanical engineers or any other engineering disciplines, even if you are an industrial engineers. So there are many areas that you can choose from. Like one of them is process engineering. So electroplating process, etching process, molding, R&D, research and development for new materials and new packaging technologies. You can work for quality control and quality assurance. Engineering people, engineering graduates are a very good candidate for quality assurance because of our, trainings when we were in college. We were trained to be analytical, and so that training becomes a key component as a good quality control practitioner. You can also work for wastewater treatment facilities. So every industry, they have their own wastewater facility to make sure that the effluent standards are matching to that the government requirements. You can work for failure analysis on reliability engineering. And so I put a rectangle on failure analysis because that's although I worked for process engineering in the past in R&D and quality control, a lot of my years in the semiconductor, I've been to failure analysis and reliability engineering. And so, what does a failure analysis, um, what does a chemical engineer do in a failure analysis job in a semiconductor company? So the good thing about chemical engineers is that our training, we are so analytical. We were teach about chemistry, we're taught about mathematics, we're taught about the engineering principles, and that combined knowledge in chemical engineering, we were molded to become a very good failure analysis engineer. A failure analysis engineer is responsible for finding out the reason why a particular gadget or a particular electronic components fail and did not function according to specifications. And as a failure analysis engineer, I was able to, experience, using a lot of advanced instruments that I've never had a chance to use when I was in college, such as even an instruments that only that when I was in college, I thought that this instrument is only for electronics or electrical engineer. But even though as I was a chemical engineer, I was able to learn and use these electrical instruments such as parametric analyzers and curve tracers. I was able to utilize nanotechnology instruments in semiconductor, and I put here an example of the instruments I used back when I was in the semiconductor company, and in fact even today I even use these instruments still. So such as the scanning electron microscopes, atomic force microscope, and the picture on the right is a transmission electron microscope. This picture was taken when I was in Japan doing TEM imaging of a semiconductor gate oxide. And then I was able to use other advanced instruments such as an acoustic microscopes and X-ray radiography for inspections of the semiconductor components. And some sample preparation instruments such as an ion milling machines and decapsulation instruments and cross-sectioning instruments. So majority of these instruments are not really available in the university unless you work for a nanotechnology laboratory or a material characterizations lab or a semiconductor fabrication laboratory. And then another instruments I used in the past when I was with a semiconductor is that this is called the fault isolations. So this is one of the instruments where we, pinpoint the exact locations in integrated circuits on where possible reasons on a failing, possible locations of a failing components. And this is a picture taken in Japan where I was doing an overage analysis of one sample I brought from the Philippines, and I was able to buy off that instruments I bought for the Philippines. So one of the another good things about working for semiconductor in STEM is the opportunity to travel. Not to mention about a good pay. So everybody wants to have a good pay as one of our motivations for choosing a career, and that's already a guaranteed thing when you work for the semiconductor company. So, and another thing is the opportunity to travel to places. In the Philippines, let's be honest, we are so left behind in terms of technology. Although the Philippines have been slowly, giving lots of fundings, and universities are slowly equipping themselves on advanced instruments, but still other countries are, way advanced in terms of technology. And because of that, the companies in the Philippines are forced to send you abroad for advanced training. And that's where the opportunity to travel comes in. And as you travel to other countries to learn and to learn technologies, you have the opportunity to do your own personal thing, to visit places you've never been, and you maybe this is the opportunity for you to you know visit places for free, and it's called a leisure while doing business. And these are other places I've been to. These are in California. This is the right picture is in Arizona, USA, and this one is I forget where it is, but I think it's in Japan. Now I've been to Japan several times, countless times. If I think more than 30 times I was in Japan. I think this was in Hong Kong. This is in Malaysia. This is in the U.S. This is in Los Angeles. I've been to again Japan and many other places. I get to meet some people along the way, while in the airplane or in the lounge. I get to meet other people. And aside from the opportunity to travel, I was because of the gained experience through the years, I became a consultant to many companies, and I also became a resource person to several organizations. I become a judge. I became an auditor. I became a speaker. I became a consultant. So that's one of the perks that you will get one day when you involve yourselves to STEM education. I mentioned about that because of the experience in the semiconductor industry, I was exposed to nanotechnology instruments. So allow me to show you the technology that evolves around nanotechnology. So this chart is called technology paradigm. Technology paradigm. This chart was created by Merrill Lynch. Merrill Lynch is a subsidiary of Bank of America. Now they are a financial service company with over 17,000 financial service consultants. What they do is to, study the various technologies that, that were introduced in the world, and then studied when it was adopted, or when it became mature. And they created a plot called the technology paradigm plot. So let's look at some of the technology plots that were created by Merrill Lynch. So the textile. So as an example, it began 1800 and it matured 1853. So when we say it became mature, the world is using it as part of our daily lives. But the most important thing now is to look at the green curve. The green curve is the nanotechnology curve. And they predict that the rapid adoptions or maturity of nanotechnology is still way, way long, still 2081. So if you are still in high school today, and if you'd like to concentrate on or align yourselves to nanotechnology, you still have plenty of time. And your future will be very bright. So the good thing about nanotechnology is it's multidisciplinary. So regardless of whether you're a civil engineer, You're a mechanical engineer, you're a chemist, you're a chemical engineer, you're a biologist, you're in medicine. Everybody can go into nanotechnology. All of us can go into nanotechnology. So let's look at where the industry is going to nanotechnology. A lot of them is crossing the nano zone. By the way, nanotechnology pertains to dimensions of less than 100 nanometers. And when you are dealing with 100 nanometers, a lot of things can change with that dimensions, including most mechanical, physical, chemical properties, that changes with nanotechnology or with nanoscale or nano dimensions. And nanotechnology started with semiconductors and electronics, but today even chemical industries and biology are now into nanotechnology. Nanotechnology is used to solve many different problems of the world, and many countries are spending a lot of money in nanotechnology. Not just money, it's money. Billions and billions of dollars are being spent by different governments in nanotechnology. So let's try to look at them. Now, Europe are spending, this much of money, $800 million. Japan, almost $1 billion. In the Philippines, we are, the governments are giving a lot of money to academics and industry engaging in nanotechnology. So nanotechnology is not new. Maybe new to some students like you, but in fact, it's not new to a lot of industries. So you're familiar with sunscreen. It uses nanotechnology. It's actually composed of zinc oxides, titanium dioxides. These nanotechnology, nanomaterial is actually protecting us from harmful UV rays. This is another product, no? Boysen. You're familiar with Boysen. They manufacture paint, and Boysen has a product called Knocks Out. It contains titanium dioxide, nano titanium dioxide, and this titanium dioxide helps in filtering the air coming from the from the cars, and when it touches the surface of the walls with knocks out paint, it cleans the pollutions and cleans the nitrous oxides. Another example of nanotechnology is for coatings called hydrophobic coatings. So if you can see some of the expensive cars like Mercedes-Benz or BMW, their side mirrors are coated with super hydrophobic coatings. So that means that the rain doesn't stick to the side mirrors. It just slide down, and it doesn't stick. Another example is nanofertilizers. In the Philippines, I know two universities that produces nanofertilizer. One of them is Central Luzon State University in Nueva Ecija, and the other one is University of the Philippines, Los Baños. They are now producing nanofertilizers. The good thing about nanofertilizers is that it increases the yields of the plants. So one day we don't need so large area of soil to produce the same amount of yield. No? And this is the objective of nanofertilizers. So this is Dr. Jovi Monserrate of Central Luzon State University. During this pandemic period, he produced nano-enhanced hand sanitizers, which he distributed to several clinics and hospitals near Nueva Ecija. So this is actually enhanced with turmeric, which we're synthesized in nano size to enhance the antibacterial property of this hand sanitizer. Another examples of nanotechnology which is already available in the Philippines is a scratch resistance nano coating. You can actually buy this from cell phone makers. So instead of using the film you're familiar with, you can buy this nano coating. You can just wipe it to the surface of your gadgets, and it makes your gadget scratch resistant. So that's my last slide on nanotechnology. Thank you for listening. So there will be a very bright for your future for you when you engage in S10. You can also follow us on our NASA Labs FB page if you would like to learn about some of the nanotechnology and advanced science educations we provide to students like you. Thank you. I'm Hello.
Thank you for the wonderful discussion, Engineer Liana. You discussed a lot of stuff that we didn't know before we took up chemical engineering in college. And we
Okay.
are glad that these students have the access to these information as early as now. I
Mhm.
think the audience are filled with questions about the things they just heard. Okay, our first question. From the net po, chemical engineering is one of the hardest courses in college. What subjects and skills can I improve on if I want to pursue this course?
Well, actually, in itself, the chemical engineering subjects are already, molding us to a better, person in terms of our analytical skills. So of course, science and mathematics are key subjects in chemical engineer or chemical engineering course, and maybe plant design if you'd like to concentrate on designing your own plants or but I guess the existing subjects in a chemical engineering course are sufficient for you to to have the right skills uh, to be a good chemical engineer.
Thank you, sir. Our next question. What has been the role of the field of chemical engineering in the time of the pandemic?
Well, actually, in the pandemic, the industry are still continually working, and as chemical engineers, they are still working in the as a normal engineers now for a company. But some of them are working to find solutions. Like I mentioned about Dr. Monserrate. Actually, he's also a graduate of a chemical engineering course, and he developed filters for for the mask. For he also developed the nano enhanced hand sanitizers, and some people we don't know are already working for some coating solutions that are considered anti viral and antibacterial. And so those are examples of some of the products being developed today in support of the pandemic.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is, how is chemistry different from chemical engineering?
Okay. Usually, chemistry are the ones responsible for doing the lab scale development. So they usually stay in a lab, they do some pilot runs, they do synthesis, and usually chemical engineering are responsible for translating it into a bigger scale, like uh, but of course the output of the lab scale has to be converted into a pilot scale and then eventually converted into a factory. So but the main difference is really chemistry is more on laboratory scale, and chemical engineering is more on factory scale. But that's just in terms of in terms of educations. But in many actual work in the workplace, some chemistry does the same thing as a chemical engineer. So if you talk about engaging in sales, both chemistry and chemical engineer can be in sales. Both chemistry and chemical engineers can be in quality control. Both chemist and chemical engineer can be doing some reliability engineering or failure analysis. Now, so in terms of study, they can be different, but in career wise, some of them can interchange. Next question.
Is it true that chemical engineering is one of the most high paying engineering profession?
Actually, true, and in fact, in some countries, chemical engineers are paid a lot. I know that in Singapore, in the US, in Canada, chemical engineers are one of the highest paid engineering disciplines. Maybe in the Philippines, it can be a different situations because the pay in the Philippines is not really dependent upon the degree. It's really dependent upon, not only dependent on the degree, it's also dependent on the industry that you work for. Maybe uh, if you a chemical engineer work for big companies like Procter and Gamble or the semiconductor or Unilever, then maybe you're one of the highest paid engineers. But maybe if when you work for a small company, then maybe chemical engineers will not be the one with the highest paid. But generally, globally, chemical engineers is one of the highest paid engineering discipline.
For the next question, sir, how
Uh,
did you decide that you want to pursue a specialty in semiconductors?
Honestly, I did not decide for myself. No, when I graduated back in 2000, no, 2013. No, I um, I tried to I tried to explore various opportunities, and semiconductor is one of the you know uh, companies that invited me. At that time, the semiconductor is in peak. The business are in peak, and a lot of my colleagues who are also graduates of chemical engineers from Apua, and my friends from high school who also took up chemical engineering courses from other university, they also were invited to job opportunities for the semiconductor. So these job opportunities that faced us are the one that drive us to enter the semiconductor industry. And this is for the same reason that I showed you the slide in terms of how much the semiconductor is contributing to the economy. So they are over 61% contributions in terms of exports. So maybe one day when you graduate from the chemical engineering from the university, you don't have a choice, but the semiconductor chooses you, for them to enter. Thank you.
So, last question from our audience, sir.
Okay.
Based on the knowledge that you have amalgamated through your travels and experience, would you say that the Philippines still lacks the mandatory equipment needed for further progression of nanotechnology?
Um, I say for now, yes, but I don't say that in the coming years we will be still left behind because, to be honest, in fairness to university, even the University of the Philippines, they're actually buying or purchasing instruments to advance themselves to nanotechnology. Department of Science and Technology is also acquiring a lot of expensive instruments so that we can be ready for nanotechnology. But maybe today it's not. Only select universities have that capability, and a lot still universities are still on the way to reach that level. But in the next 10 years, um, a lot will change. Anyway, the government is not, is really supportive of nanotechnology. For as long as you ask for money, you have good proposal, then they are willing to give you resources to purchase the right instruments.
All right, thank you for the questions and Engineer Liana for your answers. Those
Okay.
questions and answers have given us a lot of additional insight.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you po.
Thank you.
For sure, it just goes to show how many different careers are covered by the STEM domain.
Well, it's science, technology, and engineering and math, so that does cover a lot, doesn't it?
Even, even though it's just a small glimpse into the huge variety of careers that STEM covers, we do hope that you learned a lot from our speakers today. So how about it then? Did that make you eager to experience the STEM for yourselves? What do you think now that you've heard all about the practitioners from our field?
Gentle reminder lang not to put too much pressure upon yourselves because it's all right to be uncertain. It's all right not to have everything figured out at this point. Be gentle and patient with yourselves because the most important part of your futures is you. Is STEM the track that fits you the best?
It's a hard decision to make, but our final speaker is here to guide you through that with their vast experience in counseling.
Our last speaker is a guidance services specialist for the Office of Guidance and Counseling in UP Diliman. She is the counselor for the Colleges of Architecture, Engineering, Home Economics, SLIS, and Statistics. A registered guidance counselor and psychometrician, she graduated BS Psychology in the Far Eastern University, pursuing her master's degree in guidance and counseling and Doctor of Education degree in educational management from UP Diliman. She has been involved in test development for admission and supervisory effectiveness, currently working on career test development for college students.
Now let's give it up for Dr. Belina T. Cuevas.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Good
Good
afternoon, ma'am.
afternoon, ma'am.
So thank you very much for inviting me. And I learned that um, our participants today are mostly from grades 9 and 10, right? Grades 9 and 10. So thank you for the opportunity of being part of your activity this afternoon. So being in the grade 10, you are asked to choose what track you're going to choose as in your senior high. Sabi nga ng ating MC, it's okay to be uncertain, but of course there should be certain guidelines that we are supposed to follow so that you'll be able to decide well on what kind of track are we going to choose really and what kind of course we are going to pursue later on in life. So, well, at this point, I know also that the grade 10 students are already familiarizing themselves with the different tracks that they need to consider in the senior high school. And even considering some of the schools, no, well, for the schools, it's more on the parents' decision or choice. But the kind of track is your choice. So let me share my screen. Okay. Am I sharing my screen already?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let me see. Okay. 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 So how do we define success in choosing the career? Since most of the content of the subjects in grade 11 and 12 depends on your career track, so you as grade 10 student must take or must make an extra care in making your choice. So, kailangan pag-isipan, spend time thinking about it, no? Hindi yung kung kailan ka mag-enroll, dun ka palang mangangapa kung anong track ang iisipin mo, no? Kung anong track ang i-enroll mo. So, kailangan pinag-aaralan. No? Equip yourself with substantial information about your choices or your choice. And kailangan pinag-uusapan. Talk about your choices or your choice to others. Because when you discuss it with someone, you gather information as well. Well, for the grade 9 students, I know you are more relaxed about the issue, right? But your presence this afternoon is as important as the grade 10. You learn from the topic. You tickle your curiosity a bit so that you can make your plans early on. Okay? My topic is very familiar subject to everyone. In fact, you always read about this more elaborately. Then you can hear it from the seminars, from brochures. You can read it from the brochures, and now this serve as a reminder, for you guys. So everybody's familiar with traffic signs, are we? When we cross the road, we need it. We need to pay attention to the traffic signs. So there are only three to remember, right? Stop, look, and listen. So very easy. So this afternoon, allow me to use this sign so that every time you cross road, you will remember that you need to make decision on your career. Okay? Okay. Stop. You need to sit down and think. You need to spend time and think. What are you good at? So your ability. Ano ba ang kakayanan mo? Saan ka magaling? Your potential, your talent. What can you do? We refer to your physical and mental capacity. So the skills, what are your skills? Can you play an instrument? Are you good in computation? Are you good in math? Are you good in programming? Are you good in organizing facts and materials? Do you think you are good in laboratory works? Are you good in detailed works? Are you good in choreography or in public speaking? And then here comes your interest. What are your interests? Doing is different from interest. You may have the skill, but doing it is another thing. You may like music, no? And probably you can play musical instrument excellently. But pursuing music as a career, would you like it? So you are good in math, but are you interested to do computation as part of your academic life? Say, if you choose engineering, that's 4 years, no? Because our curriculum now is not anymore 5 years; it's 4 years for engineering. So for 4 years, you know you have the skill in math. For 4 years, will you be happy to do computation for 4 years and make it part of your profession later on? You are good in programming, but are you interested to do programming as a profession later in life? Now you are good in public speaking, but you convince people. But do you like working with people? Are you interested in interacting with people? I know some would be very good in arts. In fact, they can paint well, they can draw well, but they don't like to be in the field of arts. They like something else. They like humanities or they like to be in the STEM. So, what are your interests? How will you define your interests? Now, personality. Are you an extrovert type of person? Are you an introvert type of person? Are you the person who would like to work with people? Are happy to be with the company of big crowd? Or are you a type of person who would want and be happy to work alone or to work in a small group? That also matters. And probably you might say, bakit ang liit ng personality doon? It's not that it's not important, but I would like to stress that you develop personality over time. So now you may be an introvert type of person, medyo mahiyain, no? Hindi masyadong nakiki-interact, but later on as you grow older, as you mature, as you gain a lot of knowledge, then your personality will change from introvert to extrovert. Pwede ba yon? Yeah, pwede. Because personality is never constant. Okay? So, what else? So, goal. How do you see yourself 4 or 5 years from now? You see yourself as a chemist? You see yourself as a chemical engineer? You see yourself working in an office, but doing an engineering work? You see yourself part of the team who would like to design bridges? So, and then your favorite subjects. You like math. Some would really like math and be good at it. So that could be their basis of choosing whether they would like to go in the STEM, be an engineer, or be a enroll in an MBB program or be in the physics course. Okay. Grade 9 and 10 is a perfect time to explore your interests seriously, no? And begin investigating your choices. Sometimes the friends could be very influential. Like you choose this kind of track because your friends, most of your friends would be in this track, not realizing later on that you really don't enjoy it. I have some students who would express that their choice were not good really because they followed what their friends would like because they feared that the college would not give us the opportunity to interact well with others, or they lost their friends, or they feel alone because they fear that, especially those who get into UP, new environment, they are not, most of their friends are in other school, so feeling they left alone, no? So what they do, they go with what their friends' decision, okay? So explore your interests seriously. Next is stop. Oh, look, what course to select? Ang daming courses, overwhelming sometimes. Now, sometimes you want this particular course, but because there are some consideration, then we choose other course. But sabi nga ng ating host, it's okay. Uncertainty is okay, no? You are still in your exploration stage. So what track to consider? The track that you're going to consider will determine the kind of course that you're going to select. But there are some students who choose some track but not get into it during their college time. Will that be okay? Well, okay din naman, no? Because later on, you might realize na, ay, hindi pala yun ang ine-expect ko na learning from that kind of field. So like for example, when you were in high school or when you took a programming, when you are in the programming track, and you discover that it's not pala that enjoyable for you. So, pag nagpili ka ng course, ibang course naman ang pipiliin, probably humanities, no? Pero sana kung nandun ka sa STEM track, nasa STEM track ka na lang. Kasi medyo matagal pinag-iisipan. You have grade 11 and 12 to consider, no? Now, look and study different sets of courses. So, kung alam mong strong ka o strong ang iyong interests and abilities, for example, in STEM, then tignan din yung ibang track. Baka meron kang strong points doon to consider. So, wag lang mapeg sa isa because nandun lahat ng friends, or wag lang mapeg sa isa because that's also the suggestion of your parents. Or you are limited by what your parents would like you to take up, no? And yeah, it's an issue actually. It's a debatable issue. What the parents would like, but sometimes the son or the daughter doesn't like that course and they want something else, no? But let's see. Okay, you see all these tips, but I'll just probably deal with basic tips on course decision making. One is consider your ability. Sabi nga natin, no, dun tayo sa first, this is top thing. Consider ability, your skills, interests, favorite subjects, the goal. So it's just like a puzzle that you put pieces together so that you'll be able to come up with a good decision. Okay. So read different materials about the different courses. One of the students was sharing yesterday, one of my counselor was sharing yesterday, that she doesn't realize that the course that she's taking into right now is demand this kind of skill, which she thought that she never had, no? But then way back in high school, or because he took a STEM track, so okay naman siya. But now sabi niya, I forgot to read a lot about it and consider those things in my decision making. So now, he seemed to be deciding to shift. But sabi ko, then you learn things naman along the way. So, okay na wag lang matakot. Now, consult your parents, your teachers, your guidance counselors, and others. Yung aning others, yung friends yon. So, consult your teachers, the teachers that you seem to be made as a role model. Your guidance counselor can offer you, actually, kung hindi tayo pandemic, there's a lot of activities that the guidance office can share with you. You can get career test and probably determine what other considerations that you think you can consider, what other courses, no? Because there are sometimes we think that we do not consider this kind of career, but when we took more objective assessment, then pwede naman pala because we're good at it, no? The parents could also make suggestions. And then consider your family income. Why do we need to consider our family income? Remember the goal? When we set the goal, sometimes we consider a lot of things, no? Because finances is an important factor in life also. And then you need, of course, to buy books. You need, of course, to buy materials for your course. And then if it's not pandemic, of course, you came from the provinces, of course, you need to consider your board and lodging. But since pandemic ngayon, so work at home tayo lahat. No? And for example, you want to be a doctor and the family income would be this much only, no? So, importante din yan. Okay? And then, lastly, listen. There's no substitute for knowing yourself. So, sit down and think of your abilities, how you feel about this certain course, what you feel about it. And then listen to the professionals. Ano bang sinasabi ng mga teachers natin sa chem, teachers natin sa math, teachers natin sa English. And then, of course, keep your options open. There are a lot of uncertain things, but okay lang yon. There are faculties to guide you. Your parents are there, your friends are there. But of course, now is pandemic. We depend on our gadgets, no? And surfing the internet would be one good way of opening our options as well. Okay? So I hope you'll be able to remember simple stop, look, and listen as a reminder that somehow you need to spend time to think what course or what track would you want to consider. And then those are simple things. When you cross the road, then let it be a guiding way so that you'll be reminded, okay, kailangan kong consider na mag-isip at mag-decide later on. So thank you very much for listening. And you can email me at my email address. Thank you very much.
And that's that. So how was
That's
it? Do you know if you are now ready for the STEM track?
In case you still have, sorry, ma'am.
Oh yeah.
In case you still have doubts or reservations, we're opening the floor again for questions for Ma'am Cuevas.
So we now have our first question. If given the choice, should we prioritize the course or the university?
Course muna syempre. Kasi kung yung university, madali na pag yung gusto mong university, nandun yung course mo. So okay na yon. Ang mahirap, may pinili ka ng university tapos yung course mo naman will not be available there, no? So course muna. Isipin muna, anong track, anong course. That's very important.
Okay, for our next question, is it okay to pursue careers not related to the degree that you finished in college?
Yeah, I guess because now meron tayong tinatawag na shifting careers eh. For example, you finish, kunyari engineering, meron tayong mga ganito. You finish engineering, but you don't like to work in an engineering field. So you want to be in the bank. So the bank now hires other courses in the different, the bank hires in the courses in the different field and give training usually for the position that they need. So okay lang yun. I have a friend, a guidance counselor friend who happens to be an engineer, no? But after 1 year in the engineering work, she doesn't want to practice anymore. So she studied and now she's a counselor and she's happy in the field. Pwede, okay lang yun.
Okay, for our third question, pwede po bang magpalit ng strand once you enter it for senior high school?
I'm not sure sa mga curriculum ng high school kasi. But kung kunyari na you choose a STEM in your high school and then when you choose a course, it's not related to STEM, pwede yon. Sa atin, pwede yun sa UP. No? There are some UP students who are not in the STEM. They are in UM, but then enrolled in the STEM, enrolled in engineering field. In other school, they follow the track in the senior high. But I guess most of the schools are not really following that naman. Because when you are in college, you start all over again.
Thank you for that, ma'am. Our next question is, how can I proceed with my decision-making process if I have no idea what I want to pursue at this point?
Sabi nga natin, we started the goal. Siguro, medyo, for some who are not yet decided on what track to pursue, maano talaga siya, medyo mahirap. But probably you can start with a goal. What do you want to do after, like say, 4 or 5 years from now? Siguro yun ang benchmark natin. Now, do you see yourself as an engineer? Do you see yourself as working in the office? Or do you see yourself as being in the business field? Kasi meron yan eh. Then you look into your interests. What will you be happy to do? Like, will you be happy doing a sales work? Will you be happy doing what? You'll be happy doing making poems or writing reports. No? Usually, yung kung wala pang napiling track or course at this point in time, we would like them to think of their interest or their hobbies probably because you got to start somewhere. No? So, kunyari, ang hobby mo, you like reading or you like cooking, most likely. Minsan hindi nila naiisip na, pwede pala yun yung hobby ay yun yung career mo later on. No? So, yun.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next question is, what if what I want clashes with what I am good at?
It's okay. It's okay if what you want is not inconsistent with what you want with your skills because you learn it. No? There's nobody born to be nobody is born as an engineer. You have to learn the skills, you have to study. So okay lang. Kung yung skill mo ay hindi para sa ganitong profession, okay lang yun. You learn it later on. Sabi nga natin, ang personality ay nag-change, then we got to learn a lot of skills later on as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Our last question is, will it be hard to shift courses in college?
That depends on the school. And that depends on the guidelines of the school. Like in UP, medyo mahigpit. Medyo mahigpit ang ating shifting course, no? So you need to meet the grade weighted average required of the college, and you need to finish certain number of units, no? And I guess in other school also, ganun din ang procedure. Pero kung mag-shift, syempre, medyo madidelay ka. Yun naman ang consequence nun. No? Kaya dapat pag-isipan talaga saan mo ba gusto, saan ka magaling, saan ka magiging masaya. May mga challenges sa mga estudyante. Sometimes they would say, I took up this course because I am challenged when I was in high school or when I was in when I was in high school, I'm good in math, kunyari. But then I don't like it. I want to be in the field of literature. But then kung magaling ako, di dun ako pupunta, no? Instead na dun ako sa gusto kong field. So that's one of the challenges. And then later on they realize, okay, magaling ako, but I'm not happy naman. No? So later on you realize because mahirap mag-aral, no? Pangalawa, marami kang aaralin at hindi smooth ang pagiging buhay estudyante. You've got to love it, you've got to enjoy studying. So why not consider your potential and the things that you're good at, no? So that you'll be studying happily, you'll enjoy your student life because it's very important. We enjoy our student life because you'll be a student for 4 or 5 years, no? So medyo mahaba-haba. At kung hindi mo gusto yung course mo, medyo mahaba-habang agony yun. Plus the failing subjects, no? That we don't like naman, syempre.
All right, that is our last question. Thank you so much, Dr. Cuevas. We learned so much from your talk. Indeed, you only need to start somewhere. And
Yes.
hopefully, you guys learned a lot from Dr. Cuevas' talk also, and we hope it will be of great help in your discernment process.
And we do hope to see you around in the future.
Before you go, we have one last tool which could help you make the big decision of which track to take, the RIASEC test.
The RIASEC test is a quick and simple personality test for guidance in choosing a career path. There are instructions and descriptions written in the handouts that we will be sending to you.
All you have to do is fill in the circles for statements that apply to you. Once you're done, total the number of shaded circles in the boxes provided at the bottom of each column.
And that's it for Compass. And thank you for all our speakers. We hope these talks gave you all a good look into what STEM and what it can offer to you.
Before we go to our closing remarks, we would like to award our certificate of appreciation to all our speakers.
For lending us your time to help spread information and awareness of the STEM track and the field of science and chemistry, we would like to thank our speaker, Mr. Mark Steven Santiago.
In the field of engineering and technology, our speaker, Engineer Giancarlo Ventura.
In the field of science and biology, we would like to thank our speaker, Dr. Ian Kendrick Fontanilla.
In the field of chemical engineering and technology, we would like to thank our speaker, Engineer Marlon Liana.
And for her career guidance and counsel in the participants' future endeavors, our speaker, Dr. Belina Cuevas. We now call on Jalen Sambilio to award the certificates of appreciation.
The University of the Philippines Chemical Engineering Society Incorporated awards this certificate of appreciation to Mr. Mark Steven Santiago, Engineer Giancarlo Ventura, Dr. Ian Kendrick Fontanilla, Engineer Marlon Liana, and Dr. Belina T. Cuevas for their invaluable insights as speaker in Compass 2020. As an event of checkmark the spot given this 31st day of October 2020. So, pwedeng picture muna lahat. Pati yung participants, pwedeng sali kayo for documentation. O, pa-turn on na lang ng camera ng lahat, please. And para i-feature namin kayo sa Facebook para sikat tayo. Turn on na lang ng cameras. So, Pat, ikaw na magbibilang.
Yes, ito na. Open yung cameras nyo, guys, kung gusto nyo sumali sa pic. Okay. Teka lang. Wait. Ito na.
So, medyo matagal ito kasi maraming yung i-picture. Smile lang kayo.
Smile lang kayo.
For mga 5 minutes, gano'n.
Smile, guys. 3, 2, 1. Narinig niyo ba? Second page. Open yung cameras nyo.
Ayan, kaya natin to. Picture lang, smile lang.
Walang naka-open sa second. Ang konti. Sige, okay lang ba yun?
Okay lang yan, sige na.
Sige, wait lang. Smile, 3, 2, 1. Okay, last. Teka lang. Last page, guys. 3, 2, 1. Yay!
Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you guys so much.
All right, there's still so much to learn and so much to experience, and we can't wait for you to learn and experience them together with us. If you are excited, so are we.
Before we end with our closing remarks, we would like to present the winners of our raffle.
The winners of Die Curious Drawstring Bags, courtesy of Chem Online Shop, are Emel Grace Flor de Liza and Iana Baldoz.
Congratulations! Meanwhile, for the Kosh t-shirts, we have Krista Helena Acantelado and Jasper Bartolome. You will be contacted by the Compass team after the event for further instructions in claiming your prizes. Congratulations.
And now to formally close our event, let's hear the closing remarks from our Compass 2021 head, Mr. Jalen Sombilio.
And thank you. So, sandali lang naman to. English. So, if you subscribe in the news recently, it is obvious in our times that science and technology is under attack. Scientists are being discredited, fake news and pseudoscience is being normalized, and the general trust of people to science seems to be waning. But these times also show one of the best things about science, that it is unwavering, it is constant, it does not bow to personal convention or belief. And as scientists, it is our job to showcase science to people without making them feel like they're outsiders looking into our realm of knowledge. It is our purpose to include them, make them understand, and show them how science and technology makes us connect more with everything around us. It is our duty to read preconceived notions of scientists in their white lab coats in ivory towers discussing highbrow technologies, their terminologies within themselves, and present a new image of scientists who are willing to assist, educate, improve, and communicate with the other members of society. It is up to our generation to uplift STEM as the bastion of hope and truth. It is a massive challenge, but science is nothing if not a massive challenge tackled by big brains like you and me. Plus, maraming pera sa STEM, I think. So we hope you are up to the challenge. Thank you for attending Compass 2020 and stay safe.
Ayan, thank you for that solid end to our event today, Jalen. And for now, we at Compass have to say goodbye.
We hope you guys learned a lot today, and we hope we somewhat helped in your process of discerning what track and career path to pursue in the next few years. It's been a great honor to be your host today. This has been Doreen.
And this has been Kent Patrick. See you around and have a great day.
Thank you guys. Bye.